stop. So you've got the clock ready. Stop the clock at 30.
There you go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Welcome to the Plain Talking UK podcast, 600th live show from the Imperial War Museum at Duxford. So the weather is glorious, as you all see outside, and I'm pleased to say that in this week's special show here at the Imperial War Museum in Duxford, we are joined in person by so many of our listeners from around the world. A massive thank you to all of you for coming today, the many miles that people have travelled to get here, which some of you definitely have. Also thanks to all our viewers and listeners that have turned on YouTube to watch the show live. And expect the sounds of flying machines outside, as well as there will be activity during the live show. We hope that you enjoyed your time this morning visiting the museum, and also for those that took part in seeing the demo raising and lowering the Concorde's nose in Hangar 1 adjacent to us. And we would like to thank very much, a massive thanks to Mike Smith, who's just over there. Thank you very much, Mike, who is chairman of the British Airliners Collection, for organising this for you all today. Of course, it's not possible to see all of the assets here at the museum in just a couple of hours, but we hope it will give you the inclination to return to Duxford sometime in the future to see more of what they have to show here. We've got an incredible programme lined up for you this afternoon, which we know that you will enjoy. And we would also like to thank the whole of the Imperial War Museum team here at Duxford for helping us to prepare this special day just for you. You'll also be hearing from some of them during this afternoon. So, as we always say, joining me for the show today, as always, over there, pressing all the buttons in the right way, is of course Matt Smith.
Hello. I made it.
Well done, Matt. You're doing a good job. Well done. And sitting to my right here is the consummate man of all things Seat 1A and BA, is of course Neville Bounds.
Hello.
And just to my left here, he sits and writes some interesting show notes and stories for us each week, is of course Nick Codling.
Hi.
Nick.
Hello.
And it wouldn't be the show without having our resident Airbus A320 captain and sim training captain. It is, of course, Andy Wilson.
Hello. What are you all doing in my back garden?
Thanks for flying in today, Andy. It's nice to see you. Right, so we're going to say hello to everyone who's joined us. This is weird saying this, I'm not going to lie. So, thanks to everyone for joining us in the live show chat room today on YouTube, and welcome to you all. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, and also thanks to everyone who listens to us as an audio show. And don't forget to subscribe to us, as I'm sure everyone here does on YouTube. I'm sure you all do. So thank you very much for for subscribing and choosing to listen to us every week. So, Nev, we're going to hand things over to you. You've got a lovely little bit of VT here.
Yeah, we've invited various people to try and be here today, but because they're working or they're doing other things, some of them weren't able to be here. However, they have very kindly sent us some video good wishes, and if you're a fan of YouTube, you might know of John Hunt, who's the flying reporter with his PA-28. He flies around the country and overseas as well. Well, John sent us some good luck wishes for the 600 show, and here he is.
Hello, Neville and the team. I'm sorry I can't be with you today. I did want to come, but tomorrow I'm hoping to set off on my Atlantic trip, something I've been planning to do for 18 months, and I really ought to be focusing on that right now. But I want to wish you all the very best for your 600th show. I can't believe you've done that many. I thought I'd done a lot of YouTube shows, but gosh, that's an awful lot. Busy here at the house, just getting the final bits together. The lounge is cluttered with equipment, satellite phones, warm weather gear here, waterproof shoes, the raft is in there. So yeah, really busy just getting everything, all the final bits together, which I've then got to somehow fit into the back of a PA-28, which is going to be quite a challenge. But all the best on your 600th show, and hope to see you when I get back.
That was very nice of John, wasn't it? So good luck to him with his travels tomorrow. Well, at least he's got some decent weather to begin with for his Atlantic crossing in his PA-28. So next up, Andy is going to introduce our first guest speaker.
Yes, I have the wonderful honour to introduce our first speaker, Russell Marriott, today from Duxford. He's the expert guide here. Now, he's been with us since the start of the day and he's been taking your questions. Now he'll be taking us through some of the history of the museum and what you can expect to find here. So please, welcome Russell.
Thank you, Andy. And on behalf of IWM, I'd like to welcome you all to Duxford. An amazing day in terms of the weather, and I'm pleased that we've actually managed to get the sun to shine for you so you can see Duxford in its very best state. My task is to take you through 110 years of Duxford history in 20 minutes. So that's a bit of an ask. I'm going to give it my best shot. And can we switch to the screen? There we go. So thanks for doing that, Matt. So what we're looking at here is the first photograph that was taken of Duxford Airfield in 1918. Duxford was one of many new airfields that were built to train in 1917 Royal Flying Corps personnel. So this is before even the formation of the Royal Air Force. They also train here the new members of the American Air Corps, which came into formation also in 1917. So in 1918, when the Americans joined the First World War, they actually set up here a whole row of temporary hangars called Bessonneau hangars. And if you look at just on the right-hand side of the picture, you can see that line of hangars. Those are the Bessonneau hangars. And then if you look right on the opposite side of this photograph, where the arrow is, those are actually the tents that those guys slept in. So this actually dates from 1918. Fittingly, where those Bessonneau hangars were placed in 1918 is now where our American Memorial Museum actually resides. So it's quite a fitting testament. And I think when we talk to our American visitors, we do like to point out that fact that the history of both Duxford and the Americans goes back a very, very long way indeed. So following the First World War, we moved into the interwar years, and the airfield is initially actually given over to be a training school. And in 1923, it's reclassified as a fighter station. And it's here that one of the most famous squadrons to be based at Duxford is actually formed, and that is 19 Squadron. Equipped with a wonderful aircraft called a Sopwith Snipe. It develops a reputation of being an elite squadron whose history becomes indelibly linked to Duxford. And during 1927, one of the first famous people to actually be associated with Duxford actually arrives, and that is a person called Keith Park. And if you know the history of the Battle of Britain, Keith Park rises to become controller of 11 Group, who faced the might of the Luftwaffe during the Battle of Britain, and he actually rises to the rank of Air Chief Marshal. We also saw, following that in 1932, the arrival of a young officer by the name of Douglas Bader. Now, I did a little bit of market research before I actually started this talk, and I would just like to see a show of hands, please. Who knows who Douglas Bader is? Okay, so there's some here who don't know who Douglas Bader was. So if I just briefly talk about him, because he does become an indelible part of actually what happens here at Duxford. He is involved in a flying accident in 1931. That flying accident results in the removal of both his legs, so both his legs were amputated. He leaves the Royal Air Force after an attempt to actually stay in the Royal Air Force, but he rejoins in actually back end of 1939 after he convinces the Air Ministry that he was capable of actually flying an aircraft. He actually rejoins the Royal Air Force in 1940, and he becomes one of the top scoring aces during the Battle of Britain and subsequent years after that, shooting down a total of 27 enemy aircraft with no legs. And probability is that one of the reasons he was so successful is because he had no legs, he could pull tighter G manoeuvres, that the blood had nowhere to go. So Douglas Bader is quite a famous part of Duxford. When he comes here in 1932, because of the accident, he's actually given command of the motor transport section. And this is not something that Douglas Bader wanted to do. Not a role that he enjoyed. And subsequently, he is retired from the Royal Air Force on health grounds. But Bader obviously then comes back, as I've already said, in 1940. In 1935, 19 Squadron is equipped with a brand new fighter, and this fighter is called the Gloucester Gauntlet. Now, this created something of a precedent, because 19 Squadron, given the first fighter of a particular type, was to follow on when they were given another new fighter in 1938, which we're going to come to. Gloucester Gauntlet was capable of 230 miles an hour. It was deemed the frontline fighter. And it was, in many ways, where technology was in terms of fighter aircraft of that particular time. Further building work carries on in Duxford in the 1930s, and in recognition of Duxford's standing in the rapidly developing Royal Air Force, it's chosen to host King George V's Silver Jubilee Review in 1935. This event is set against is a showcase for British air power, featuring a fly past of over 350 aircraft. And you can imagine 350 aircraft on a fly past through here. That is quite something. But it was obviously set against a growing uncertainty in what is happening in Europe. In 1936, we have another famous visitor to Duxford, and that person is Frank Whittle. And for those of you who have flown jets, you probably know who this guy is. I don't have to ask. He is, of course, recognised as the co-creator of the turbojet. Frank Whittle is flying with the Cambridge University Air Squadron, and he spends a lot of time here at Duxford during that time before the outbreak of World War II. 4th of August 1938 is a significant day in the history of Duxford and RAF history in general. 19 Squadron are chosen to become the first operational squadron with the new Supermarine Spitfire. And this is a picture of K5054, the prototype here at Duxford before the war. This man, Geoffrey Quill, Supermarine's chief test pilot, and he actually flew the 3rd production Spitfire into Duxford to be delivered to 19 Squadron. It's worth reflecting that the pilots of 19 Squadron previously been flying the Gloucester Gauntlet, as you know, 213 miles per hour. They're then given command of these incredibly advanced, sleek, 350 mile an hour monoplane aircraft. No trainers. It was very much seat of the pants flying. And it's not long before they start to write them off, unfortunately, because there was an awful lot that they actually had to get used to in a very short period of time. The airfield was brought to a state of emergency 26th of September 1938 with the Sudeten crisis in Europe, and we'll remember this from Chamberlain coming back with his piece of paper saying, I've got peace in our time. And that does bring Europe to the brink of war. Thankfully it's averted, but just a year later, Duxford is at war. RAF Duxford was the southernmost station of 12 groups, so the UK was divided into fighter groups. 11 group around London, you then had 10 group on the left-hand side of this picture, which was effectively the southeast, and then you had 12 group, and 12 group covered the industrial Midlands and the East Anglia. Duxford was the southernmost station within 12 group, and that was significant and in fact crucial, because what it meant is that when 11 group were under attack, 12 group at Duxford was the closest airfield in order to provide support to 11 group aircraft. Douglas Bader rejoins the Royal Air Force. Here he is. He never walked with a stick. He's got no legs, but he never walked with a stick. And he's initially based here at Duxford, and there's quite a famous story is that when he rejoins here, his best friend here is a guy called Geoffrey Stevenson, who becomes station commander of 19 Group. He sets up a meeting with Trafford Leigh-Mallory, who's the commander of 12 Group. This is Geoffrey Stevenson. And he suggests that his friend Douglas Bader flies in to meet Trafford Leigh-Mallory. Douglas Bader introduces himself by flying a Hurricane upside down straight across the airfield before he inverts it and lands to say, hello, here I am. He's actually brought back into the Royal Air Force, and quite remarkably, within a very short period of time, he's actually given command of 242 Squadron flying Hurricanes. Geoffrey Stevenson, who is, as I said, Douglas Bader's best friend at Cranwell, has taken command of 19 Squadron here at Duxford. And on the 25th of May 1940, him and the squadron, 19 Squadron, are ordered to fly south with the order to patrol the coastline of northern France as the British Expeditionary Force falls back to the beaches. May the 26th is the first day of Operation Dynamo, Dunkirk. And this is another significant day in the history of Duxford. 19 Squadron are engaged in one of the first mass dogfights where Spitfires are involved. They attacked 21 Stuka dive bombers over the French coast, but are bounced by 30 Messerschmitt 109s. And I'm sure you all know 12 Spitfires in the squadron. It's quite a lot of Messerschmitts. Stevenson destroys a Stuka, never been in combat before, shoots down a Stuka with essentially the first shots from his Spitfire, but in turn he is shot down by a Messerschmitt 109 and has to belly land on the beach at Sangatte. This picture is shortly, probably even the same day, that the Spitfire was belly landed onto the beach, and you can see from the gun ports where he'd actually opened fire. He survives, but he's captured after 8 days of being on the run, and he spends the rest of the war in a POW camp. He actually ends up spending quite a bit of that in Colditz, again with his best friend Douglas Bader, who is downed in 1942. His Spitfire N3200 isn't recovered by the Germans, and it's engulfed by the sand and sea, and that is until 1987, where a freak storm actually reveals the outline of the aircraft itself. After a bit of a move around different museums, it's eventually returned here to Duxford, to where it was restored back to full flying condition. Just in the hangar behind us here, aircraft restoration. And that is thanks to the generosity of a very generous benefactor, Dr. Thomas Kaplan. And the aircraft itself resides to this day in the very same hangar in which it was based in May 1940. And when I do a talk on the Spitfire, I often tell our visitors that this Spitfire proves that time travel exists. So it's actually back in the same hangar that it flew from in 1940, and it's one of the stars of any flying event that we have here at Duxford. By June 1940, Germany's overrun Northern Europe, and Britain was facing an enemy just a few miles away on the English Channel. And with invasion considered a very real possibility, Duxford is brought to a high state of readiness. And what they do is that they actually get 5 squadrons to be based here at Duxford and its sister airfield, its satellite airfield, Falmere. One of the men involved in this is a man called Brian Lane, who's quite a famous name here at Duxford. This is Brian looking at the camera in the middle here. Brian Lane was involved in that skirmish over the Channel with Geoffrey Stevenson. He became the de facto squadron leader when Stevenson was downed. But what this picture actually illustrates is the stress that these young men actually went through during that tumultuous summer of the Battle of Britain. Duxford squadrons go on to play a critical role in the Battle of Britain, intercepting large Luftwaffe formations, notably on the 9th and the 15th of September. And it's during this time that Douglas Bader rises to prominence with his deployment of the Big Wing, using the 5 squadrons based here at Duxford and Falmere. Essentially what the concept was that Bader had actually formulated, and this was really through a frustration of 12 Group actually not being involved in what was seen as the fighting that was going on in the south of England, was to get 5 squadrons into the air at the same time, essentially 50 aircraft, and for those aircraft then to attack the Germans en masse to shoot them down. Good concept in theory. The problem with it is that it took time to get those aircraft into the air, and by the time they'd actually got them formatted and ready to fly down to intercept the Germans had quite often bombed the targets that they were going to bomb or were on their way back to France. And this is what caused a lot of the ill feeling between 11 Group and 12 Group. That's Keith Park and Trafford Lee Mallory. This is Trafford Lee Mallory. He's the commander of 12 Group. Here at Duxford, and he is the man that really champions the cause of Bader and the Big Wing. Modern studies downplay the importance of the episode, but there's no doubt that the Big Wing cast quite a long shadow over what happened during the Battle of Britain. And even to this day, I visited Bentley Priory and I was asked, what side are you on, when they found out I was from Duxford. It's still something that is still very much resonates to this day. Also based at Duxford during the war period was a unit called the Air Fighting Development Unit. And the Air Fighting Development Unit was a highly secretive organisation. And what the role of the AFDU was to actually fly RAF aircraft and other Allied aircraft, and to actually iron out the problems that these aircraft had so they could actually train the pilots correctly in the skill sets that were needed to fly particular aircraft. And for you, those of you that are pilots, of course, you all know that some aircraft have their own foibles. And it was about flying these aircraft, getting the best out of these aircraft, and then instructing the pilots on how to get the best out of them. All types of aircraft were flown, and tactics worked out how to get the best from them. And there's 2 aircraft that are famously associated with Duxford and the AFDU. And those are this aircraft here. Anybody recognise that? Mustang, early Mustang. Early Mustang had a bit of a problem in its engine. It was powered by an Allison engine. It had a problem in getting to altitude. Anything above around about 10,000 feet, it started to run out of puff. And it was here at Duxford that the idea of putting a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine into the Mustang first surfaces. It's subsequently taken up to Derbyshire, Rolls-Royce, and they then fit the Mustang with the Rolls-Royce Merlin, and it becomes the P-51D that then goes on to win a lot of hearts during the campaign over Europe. The other aircraft that is famously associated with Duxford is this aircraft, which is the Typhoon. The Typhoon had some enormous problems. Carbon monoxide, pilots would pass out because of the carbon monoxide. The tail would fall off in mid-flight. Kind of serious problems, and it took a lot of effort for the AFDU to actually iron these problems out with the Typhoon. But in ironing those problems out, what they end up doing is that they end up creating probably the best ground attack aircraft fighter of World War II. What the AFDU are also tasked with doing is that they play around with captured German aircraft. This is a Messerschmitt 110. It's a Storer, Göring's favourite aircraft, apparently. What they would do is that they would take these aircraft on board. They would then fly mock combats with Spitfires, with Hurricanes, to try and find out the weaknesses in these aircraft. So again, they could instruct their crews as to what to do when they came up against these aircraft in combat. And it must have made quite a sight with German aircraft flying over the Cambridgeshire countryside. And it wasn't something to be repeated until 1968, when there's more German aircraft flying over the Cambridgeshire countryside. And we then come to the American years. So back end of 1942, the Americans start to join the UK war effort. And in 1943, they've actually totally replaced the Royal Air Force here at Duxford. Duxford becomes 78th Fighter Group's headquarters. The picture that you see here is aircrew, ground crew stood in front of the very famous P-47 Thunderbolt, the Jug, and with the famous checkerboard nose that was the symbol of 78th Fighter Group and became a very familiar sight over the Cambridgeshire countryside. Their role was to fly with the B-17s and B-24s in an escort role to try and prevent the losses that were being sustained by the United States Army Air Force at that time. Duxford becomes a very significant base for the Americans in the friendly invasion, and it becomes well known to the United States home audience because they have apparently a cracking dance band here called the Duxford Thunderbolts, and they would broadcast back to the American audience, and it became a very well-known name in the United States. It also becomes a site that is visited by some of the personalities of the day. Bob Hope sat in the P-47 Thunderbolt, Bing Crosby, and James Cagney always turns up, and I'm sorry I couldn't get a picture of James Cagney. But it's not just about the dance and the celebrities. The 78th is right at the heart of the action, and these photographs that you're looking at here are all of Duxford with the 78th Fighter Group. The 78th claims a number of firsts. They become the first fighter group to claim double figures in one mission. The first fighter group ace and the first pilot to shoot down 3 enemy aircraft on the same mission. During a raid on the 19th of May 1944, they shoot down 12 German fighters for no loss. And the 78th plays a significant part during D-Day, sweeping low over the bridgeheads and attacking enemy targets. And the lead up to this mission, some of you may have already visited today, can be seen in our new interactive display in Hangar 4. A new record is set in August 1944 with the first destruction of a Messerschmitt 262 jet. And in September 1944, you can see these guys are heavily involved. They're involved in the Arnhem offences, where their job is to draw the fire from the transports, from the parachute aircraft and the gliders, and that's a task for which they get a second presidential citation. So these guys are at the top of their game. This picture is taken at the top on the balcony of our control tower. You go look at our control tower, you'll see exactly this same image. The person second across from the left is Hap Arnold, who's the General of the Air Force. He is here in 1944 because 78th Fighter Group are proving just how effective they are. And this is about the top brass actually displaying themselves for the men that are there here at Duxford. In December 44, things change a little bit. The aircrew, the pilots, have to give up their beloved P-47 Thunderbolts. This was something that they didn't do easily, and it's replaced with the new P-51 Mustang. And as we've already touched on, the issue with the Mustang, or the advantage that the Mustang gave, it gave much longer range. So what these guys were able to do is that they were able to roam far and wide across the German countryside looking for targets of opportunity. And on the 16th of April 1945, in a single day, they claim the destruction of 135 aircraft in a single day, and the damage to 89, with just remarkable figures. During the 2 years that the 78th were based at Duxford, it shot down and claimed a total of 697 aircraft destroyed. The United States Air Force leave in November 1945, but they leave behind 93 young American men and 167 aircraft lost. The American period at Duxford is an important part of the rich history of this airbase, and it's rightly honoured with the opening of the American Memorial Museum in 1997. This shared history makes Duxford a must-visit location for many of our American visitors. And if I just whiz through some of these pictures of these wonderful pictures of P-51 Mustangs outside the control tower. So we then come to the jet area. The Royal Air Force take back ownership of the airfield in the back end of 1945. This man becomes commander of the squadrons that are based here. And this is Al Deer. Al Deer is a celebrated Battle of Britain pilot and fighter ace. And the first, and what they're flying initially is Spitfire LF-9s, which are the later marks of Spitfires that have come into use with the Royal Air Force. But by 1946, they've actually converted, and they've converted to Meteor F-3s, and these equip 91 Squadron that is based here. By 1948, concerns are starting to grow about the steel planking that was laid down by the Americans over the grass to give a better runway. Just as a slight aside, the Americans had a nickname for Duxford, and that nickname was Duck Pond. And the reason they called it Duck Pond is that it tended to retain the water. So they laid down a steel planking to actually give, obviously, more opportunity for aircraft to fly. But that steel planking is causing a problem in terms of the high-speed landing of the jets that are then being flown. And eventually the decision is made to actually build a 6,000-foot concrete runway, which is still in use, and a T2 hangar, which is the big hangar, the first one you come to on the walk up the runway. And those are completed by August 1951. And Duxford becomes part of the new quick reaction alert system as tensions grow with Soviet Russia and the Cold War begins to become an issue. The Meteors are replaced by Gloucester Javelin 7s, and the Javelin 7 is the aircraft in the middle, flanked by two Hunters, which I know that you recognise. But by 1960, the Air Ministry begins a review of all airfields, and many are marked for closure, and Duxford becomes one of those airfields. Duxford is considered to be too far inland in the era of quick reaction, and it can't any longer be an effective base, and the decision is made to close the airfield. And in 1961, the final RAF flight is made by a Meteor, closing 43 years of active service, and the site is then left under the control of care and maintenance whilst the decision is awaited as to its final fate, and that is until 1967. And in 1967, Spitfires are back at Duxford. And the reason that Spitfires are back at Duxford is that the Air Ministry has had a letter from United Artists Film Company, and they're talking about a film entitled The Battle of Britain. The Ministry grant permission for the filming to actually take place here. United Artists repaint all of the buildings here in wartime camouflage at the princely cost of £35,000. Spitfires and Hurricanes are sourced. In fact, I think at one point it's something like the 35th biggest air force in the world when all the aircraft are actually assembled here. And that includes Buchons from the Spanish Air Force, and also Heinkel 111s, actually Cazas, also from the Spanish Air Force. Thankfully, the Spanish carried flying these aircraft after the end of World War II. This was a real bonus, because what actually happens then during that filming period is that it's actually aircraft that are being flown in combat situations, and these are the aircraft that are actually featured. They build on the edge of the airfield a French chateau. This is just a facade, and for those of you that know the film, what happens next is that you have Messerschmitts coming in, strafing the airfield. This is the French airfield, and actually taking out all of the surviving aircraft. They also decide that what they're going to do for realism with the film is that they're going to blow up one of the original 1917 hangars here at Duxford. They take some great shots actually in the film where it's an aerial bombing sequence where they've got Heinkels that are coming in and bombing the airfield, and they were coming in towards us in that direction. They actually load up that hangar with half a ton of TNT with two oil bowsers. As the Heinkels come down, they press the fire button to explode the explosive, and nothing happens. And the following day, they have to go in and they actually find out why it didn't blow up. and then do it again and then splice it actually into the film. But it's a spectacular ending to the film. It's still unclear to this day whether permission was granted or not granted. The film itself has become historical in its own right because, and I've already touched on this, there's no CGI in the Battle of Britain. It was all real flying aircraft. It was all real people flying in these aircraft. And it's something that, as far as Duxford is concerned, it resonates to that day, not least of the fact is that we have a huge gap where an aircraft hangar used to be. But also some of the aircraft that you've seen here today were survivors from that film, and the Messerschmitt that was flying the Bouchon Yellow 10 was featured in the film The Battle of Britain. So after the completion of the filming, the MOD put the site up for tender and various ideas are expressed for its future as to what's going to happen. It might be a sports park, it might be a prison. But in 1971, the Imperial War Museum declared an interest in actually using the site to house their big vehicles. And by 1975, the results of a public inquiry are actually published, and Duxford was issued with the agreement for IWM to use the whole site in conjunction with Cambridgeshire County Council. And this was really the big key, because what Cambridgeshire County Council do is that they list all of the historic buildings on this site. And by that very action of listing those buildings, it meant that those buildings were protected forever. Which is the reason that you can walk around this site and you can see First World War aviation buildings still actually standing and in use. 1975 also sees the formation of the Duxford Aviation Society. I told you I'd get you in, Mike. And as a partner organisation to IWM, DAS owns and maintains the British airliner collection, and we're going to hear from Mike shortly. In 1976, the site was open to the general public, and from that point on we have a steady stream of aircraft and vehicles that are coming into the site to actually be viewed by the public. But then in 1977, 20th of August, Concorde 01 GXDN touched down to much publicity and became an instant draw for the public. 1983, private flying collections arrived to set up base at Duxford, and these include some quite famous names that some of you may know. Ray Hanna's Old Flying Machine Company, the fighter collection owned by Stephen Gray, and aircraft restoration developed under the guidance of our own John Romain. Duxford was also a significant site for film companies. And this is just one film that was actually filmed famously here at Duxford, which is obviously is Memphis Belle. And Duxford remains a much sought after TV and film location. And that is chiefly due to the fact that it still retains that wartime atmosphere because the buildings were kept. The collection importance of the site continued to grow, and following the opening of the Land Warfare Museum in 1992, campaign commences to build the American Memorial Museum to honour the achievements of the United States Army Air Force during World War II. And there's extensive fundraising that goes on both sides of the Atlantic, and such dignitaries as George Bush are involved, and Charlton Heston also involved. And the museum is opened in 1997 by Queen Elizabeth and houses the best collection of American military aircraft outside of the US. This includes, for those of you who have not been up there today, a B-17, a B-24 Liberator, a B-29 Super Fortress, C-47, which is a D-Day veteran, a B-52 Stratofortress, and an SR-71 Blackbird. And that's just some of the aircraft that are actually up there as well. The building that you're in here opened in 2007, and Duxford is unique in the fact that it is a historical operational airfield where visitors are able to see aircraft, historic aircraft, in their natural element. Pilots, for those of you that have flown in, I know there's some that have flown in, are able to fly their own light aircraft into Duxford and probably park up next to a Spitfire or another Warbird, and it makes it an extremely special place because of that. Duxford is also a very important educational venue, and you've probably seen some of the children here today. And we welcome many thousands of school children to come to this site to learn about wartime, to learn about the things that their forefathers actually achieved. It's also developed into a centre of excellence. The Warbird restoration and maintenance that is currently being undertaken here of the Lancaster is a real feather in the cap. So it's a Battle of Britain Memorial Flight Lancaster that's currently being restored in something like an 18-month period at aircraft restoration. And last year, at Duxford, the Dakota was also fully restored to flying condition. But some of the aircraft that are based here that are in many ways unique is Sally B, that we can see out on the concrete apron, the only flying B-17 in Europe. The Curtis Hawk 75, actually a veteran of the Battle of France. This, as far as we know, is the only example flying in the world. Hawker Tempest 2, again, the only flying example in the world. Bristol Blenheim 1, again, the only flying example in the world. Gloucester Gladiator, there's 2 of these, and this is 1. There's also around 15 flying Spitfires and 5 Hurricanes. And as one visiting pilot actually exclaimed, is this warbird heaven? And I'll leave that for you to make your own judgment on that. And that's me finished.
Wonderful. Thank you, Russell. Really appreciate that. Amazing. And we'll move straight on then, if that's okay.
Have you got any questions?
Oh, sorry.
For Russell?
Yes.
What's happening sort of currently? It seems to have gone very quiet.
Yeah,
Flew
it's sat
here,
in
flew a
Hangar
little
2.
bit.
I think it's had some. Have you got any information on that, Adam?
It's
where it is?
various tests at the moment. We're hoping to have it flying in the not too distant future. So yeah,
Yeah.
fingers crossed it won't be too long before we see that somewhere else.
I think the fact it is one in the world is a bit of an issue because you haven't got another one to look at with the problems that go on. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be flying again soon.
Do you guys actively go out and seek out other airframes? Like, are you looking to add more airframes to the museum always?
There's always restoration work that's ongoing. I know that here at the moment we've got the Hawker Typhoon that has actually been restored as part of the Hawker Typhoon project. So that is certainly one thing that's going on. And it's also a case of other aircraft will come here and actually will request to be hangared in the aircraft hangars that we've got here. And we get various aircraft that come backwards and forwards from other air bases. Obviously, there's a lot of kudos in having your aircraft actually hangared here at Duxford.
Oh, there's one question in the back there.
You've got a fantastic collection of British airliners parked on the ramp, but obviously they're outside in the finest British weather. Have you got any plans to house them indoors, where they might last a bit longer?
Yeah, it's a common question that we get asked, and the problem, in all reality, it's simply space. It's how do you actually house those aircraft? And I know Mike will be talking about. Will you be talking about that, Mike?
No, it wasn't.
Mike won't be talking about that. No. But yeah, I mean, it's a problem that that the museum is aware of, and I think what DAS do their very best to do is to actually make these aircraft as weatherproof as possible. But it's a genuine problem because you need an enormous amount of space inside in order for those huge objects to actually go into. If you've got any ideas about how we actually solve that problem, please let us know.
Well, I mean, Carlos is often looking for parts to put in his house. I mean, I'm sure it could go there. Thank you very much, Russell. Another little round of applause, please, if we may. So we'll move straight on then, if that's okay, and I have the pleasure of introducing our next guest. And if we could please put your hands together and welcome Adam Kendall.
Stand over here. I'm going to stand here. I haven't got a presentation though, but So you're just going to have to put up with me talking for 15 minutes or so about air shows. But hey, that should be great. I'm Adam. I'm the head of commercial services here. So I look after all the air shows and all the events and bits and pieces that we do here as part of Duxford. Big thank you to you all for coming down. I hope you're enjoying your day, and it sounds like you've got loads of really exciting stuff planned for the rest of the day as well. So on behalf of, as Russell said, behalf of the IWM, big thank you for coming along, and thank you for bringing the weather with you as well. If you have a way to bring this to the air shows this season as well, please do. That would make my life a lot more straightforward. I'm also a part of the All Parliamentary Party group for air shows. So that's a group within the UK Parliament here that gives us direct access into government to lobby for air shows, because one of my big things is thinking just how important air shows are, not just for the flying and all the stuff you can see out here and all the historic aviation, but really driving the future of future engineers, pilots, flying display directors. Everything in the flying world, I think, can be connected back to air shows. And certainly that's how I got into flying and aviation, was going to air shows when I was young, seeing all the aircraft flying and thinking, wow, this is something I want to be involved in. And the people I speak to at the museum, a lot of people have the same sort of story. So we're very conscious we play a really important role with that. As Russell said, we've got a huge amount of flying aircraft here. So what's the best thing to do with them? Put air shows on, of course. That's how we can best display them, best preserve the history here. A little bit of just idea of how air shows have come about at Duxford. We started flying air shows here back in 1973. So we've been doing it for over 50 years. In fact, the air shows actually predate the Imperial War Museum based here. So there's a really good historic resonance about sort of putting them on. Over the past 10 years or so, we've really tried to supercharge them and take them perhaps a bit more seriously than we used to. Back in 2016, 17, we had a May Air show that didn't go particularly well. It wasn't particularly well attended. We thought, you know what, we need to do this a bit more seriously. So we got a new air show manager in. We then, in 2018, we had a really fantastic season where we celebrated the centenary of the RAF, one of my favourite events. It was absolutely fantastic. Loads of RAF participation. 2019, we had the DAX over Duxford event. If anybody's aware of that, well, we brought loads of Dakotas over from the United States. I think that was probably my favourite air show in the 23 years I've been here. It was superb. We then thought we really need to sort of perhaps give a bit more definition to the air show season. So just as we were going into 2020, we were going to sort of shake things up a bit and really look at the May air show that we do and the September air show that we do, and try and make those a bit more distinctive. And then COVID happened. So we had to sort of take a foot off the gas, and that threw things out for a couple of years. But the format that we have now for air shows here is we have our two main air shows, the one in June, normally, come into that in a minute, and the one in September. And they've both got very different themes. So the June one is meant to be a bit more family focused. It's supposed to be sort of fast jets, display teams, wing walkers, all that sort of stuff. And then our September air show is our Battle of Britain air show. And that very much touches on what Russell was talking about. Lots of Spitfires, lots of Hurricanes, and really celebrating this wonderful First World War fighter base that we've got here, and all the historic aircraft that we can put up, and the Barda Big Wing that we sort of fly around as well as part of it. So there are two sort of big shows. We then have our flying days as well, and these are meant as almost sort of taster air shows. So hour or so flying in the afternoon, mostly with Duxford-based participants. It's a really fantastic way to showcase to people what we can do in terms of flying, but it also means that new display pilots can get involved. So if you haven't displayed at a full air show before, you can come to our slightly smaller events and display there. The flying display directors that the air show industry needs to continue, it's about bedding those in and making sure that people understand how they can operate, how they can work in a sort of a safe environment when it comes to sort of air shows. So the flying days are really important for us as well. And then we've got our two sort of special events. We've got our flying evening, which is very Ronseal. It does what it says on the tin. It's an evening of flying. It's absolutely great. It's a bit more relaxed. The light at Duxford is very different in the evening, so you get to watch all these great aircraft flying in slightly different lighting conditions, and it's wonderful. Really enjoy that. And then our flying finale, which initially started out as just our end of season. We'll have a bit of a wash up and put as much flying as we can on, and that'll be lovely. It'll be a nice, relaxing way to the end of the season. However, past couple of years, fantastically, the RAF have really supported the event. So as with this year coming, for the 3rd of October, the flying finale is this year, the RAF have given us the Red Arrows, they've given us a Typhoon, they're giving us the BBMF. So it's absolutely fantastic to have such great support, and it's a really, really great event for us. So that sort of brings us on to what we're doing this season in terms of the air shows and flying. flying. So we've already started. We had our first flying day back in May. That was our VE Day flying day. And although it was VE Day themed, we had Spitfires and Hurricanes and Mustangs, which was all lovely. But we also had, I think it was 44 in the end, Chipmunk aircraft. So the aircraft, I'm just seeing lots of nodding heads. I'm sure everybody is aware of what the Chipmunk is. You've probably all flown in or piloted one at some point. So it's the 80th anniversary of the Chipmunk this year. So we celebrated that by having as many Chipmunks here as we could get. I think it was about 44 in the end on the ground. We got 21 up in the air, including 3 from the Portuguese Air Force. Didn't think we were getting military support from the Portuguese Air Force this year. We did. It was great. And to see that volume of aircraft here, I think we worked out we had about a quarter of the world's population of Chipmunks actually based here for the weekend, which was superb. So that started. That's so wonderful. The next event we've got coming up is the D-Day Flying Day. Again, does what it says on the tin. We're going to be celebrating D-Day here. We've got various of the home-based warbirds flying, so Spitfires, again, Mustangs, that sort of stuff. A couple of L4 Cubs, again, ubiquitous with sort of D-Day. Then we're coming to our first main air show of the season, which we've moved this year. So normally it's in June. This year it's in July. And that's purely because we're going to celebrate all things American as part of the event. So it's the 4th and 5th of July this year. As Russell so eloquently sort of described, Duxford's got a real history with the Americans. So both the RAF and United States Air Force were based here during the war, and we thought that's a really good opportunity to celebrate all the sort of American air power plus British air power. So we've got a really exciting lineup that day. We've got the Red Bulls coming across from Europe, which is for me absolutely fantastic. The P-38 is going to be here. We don't see the P-38 very often, and it's a beautiful aircraft. So we've also got some more modern military, so the Typhoon's going to be displaying from the RAF. That's always a great display and really goes down well with the audiences. We've got the BBMF. We've got the Royal Jordanian Falcons as well, which is fantastic. I don't believe that they have displayed at a sort of a private air show before. So they've done sort of RIAT and things like that. I think we're the first time they've come to a sort of a civilian aircraft. Yes, there we go. So have they been there? I will take that back to our marketing team. There we go. Every day's a school day. Thank you. But to have them is a real coup for us as well. So we're really pleased to have them here sort of displaying. So that's going to be great. Lots of stuff on the ground as well. I think what a lot of air shows are finding at the moment is that really to make sure air shows have a big presence, we need to sort of accommodate the sort of family market as well. So you see lots of trade stalls, and we have a steam fair, and we've got a big stunt bag, which is a tall tower you can throw yourself off. It's what they do in the films apparently, but very popular with sort of family audiences. Those are ways of getting sort of a different audience into air shows. We're conscious we're in a big competitive marketplace with other festivals, music festivals, zoos, all these sorts of things. So we've really got to stand out and get people in. My thing is always the people who come to the June Air Show, the sort of family audience, are hopefully in the future, they're the people that come back to the Battle of Britain Air Show because they get the drug of seeing all the Spitfires and all the historic aviation, which is what we want. Following that, we then go into our American Flying Day, which again does exactly what it says on the tin. That's a much smaller event, but we'll have the B-17 flying and bits and pieces like that for us, which that should be quite good. Then we've got our flying evening, which as discussed, still working on the content, so keep an eye. We've not announced exactly what we're flying there, but we normally have some pyrotechnic displays, that sort of stuff in the evening. Always looks quite funky. Battle of Britain Air Show after that. The big USP for us on that is putting up the big wing, as we call it, again in reference to the historic nature of the site. And that's when we try and put as many Spitfires up at the end of the show as we possibly can. That's normally anywhere between sort of 16 and 20. I have lost count of how many times I've seen that now, but it's every time it is just superb. To see 16 Spitfires flying overhead is an absolutely incredible sight, and almost everybody here watching it they will have a tear in their eye when they see it, because it is, even if you're not into aviation, historic aviation, seeing those Spitfires flying is just superb. We've also got the Red Arrows this year. They're coming to the Saturday of the September Air Show, which is very exciting for us. They're not coming to July, unfortunately, because I believe they're in America, so they've switched over. So they're coming to September. So we've got that. That's going to be a really great show. And then, as I said, at the end of the season, we've got our flying finale. Again, massive support from the RAF. Rafat, so Red Arrows are going to be here, Typhoon, BBMF, and then we'll put up any other aircraft that we can, a lot of the Duxford favourites, Spitfires, Mustangs, that sort of stuff. So really packed sort of season for us. As well as that, we've got a couple of special events as well that we do. Again, because we've got such a great site, we've got so many exciting exhibits, we've got some other bits and pieces going on. So the big one that we're looking at is in July, we've got around 26 Blackbird SR-71 pilots and ground crew coming across from the United States. That's probably the biggest reunion we've hosted here for a very long time. Really looking forward to that. It's going to be a great opportunity to speak to all these great pilots who've done incredible things at incredible speeds. So we've got that, and then we've got our Spitfire Day the week after that, 1st of August, where we celebrate all things Spitfire. Again, we very much see ourselves as the home of the Spitfire. We were the first place to take operational delivery of the Spitfire, so that's our claim. It's 90 years old this year, so we're celebrating all things Spitfire in August as well. So really, really packed season, but as sort of Russell said, big thing for us is obviously keeping the museum going. All the work that we do in terms of the air shows, the events, all that money is ploughed back into the collection, making sure that we are looking after everything that's been here, whether it's the buildings, whether it's the hangars, whether it's the aircraft. It's really important to keep these sorts of things going, and again, inspiring the future, whether they're pilots, engineers, ground crew, whoever they may well be. We really want to get people to sort of understand the real benefits of aviation, how we can make it more sustainable. All those things I think can be ticked by all the airshow work that we do. So that's us, that's what we do. Do come along. Hopefully you're all used to coming to airshows anyway, but they're really great events, and I think they really showcase Duxford at its absolute best with all our great partners that we've got. There we go. That's me. We've got time for questions. Happy to take questions if anyone's got any questions. I'm conscious I'm competing with aircraft flying over.
Thanks very much indeed. What a great job. And I'm a great fan of Duxford.
Wonderful.
Air shows in the past have come under regulatory examination after John Derry died at Farnborough in 1952, but more recently the Shoreham Air disaster. Is there a pendulum in this that swings that allows air shows to return to something of their former glory, or are we now stuck with regulations that prevent proper air displays at airfields like Farnborough and other places around the country?
That's a very good question. I think it's the situation we find ourselves in at the moment with the regulations. I don't see that changing. Obviously, with everything that we do at Duxford, and indeed the wider aviation industry, airshow industry rather, safety is absolutely paramount, and we've had some incidents that we've had to be really conscious of and make sure that we're adapting all of our flying and all of our displays and displaying in the safest possible manner. I think the way that airshows are currently structured now is going to stick with us, because we do absolutely need to make sure that we are safety conscious at all times with how we sort of display and how we run the events. So I can't see regulations changing, and I think that obviously there's a very good reason for that, to ensure that the events that we put on are as absolutely safe as they possibly can be.
Thanks very much.
There we go. There we go. Thank you all very much.
Thanks,
Enjoy the rest of your day. There we go.
So many of us will have been lucky enough to see the Concorde nose droop demonstration earlier, which was very well presented by Mike Smith, who is our next guest speaker. Mike is the chairman of the British Airliners Collection, and he's going to be telling us all about the amazing collection of British airliners here at Duxford.
Okay. Good. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, guys, for inviting us along. First of all, I should start off with congratulations to you folks. 600 episodes is quite an achievement, so thank you for that. I'm going to change pace really from Russ and the general IWM theme. We are a very close partner. I'd like to think an important partner with IWM, developing what's happening at Duxford and telling the wider story of aviation. Our part of it is to look at the civil side. So what I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about the history of the Duxford Aviation Society, which I'll probably refer to as DAS from here on in, just to save a bit of time, and what we are about, what we do, things that we get involved in, and all of that is toward promoting, basically, the story of particularly British engineering, British science expertise in the development of civil aircraft post-war. There's a lot of link with the military guys. Obviously, there's a lot of transfer of technology between the two. But it's a story, I think, that everybody, and a vast majority of the public now, are so used to travelling for next to nothing down to to lovely holidays in Spain and other parts of Europe. They don't tend to give any thought to the history of how we've actually arrived at this point. So that's one of the stories we're trying to tell here. There have been 40 years of amazing technical development, which have led to the things you're used to today. So, can we change to the computer or just put my...
hit your presentation button.
No?
There should be a little presentation.
Is it the... I think that's probably got it. No, it's not. Is it at this point I say talk amongst yourselves? So just it's not on the screen behind us. Is that a... here we go. There we go. Right, so quick lead in. Yes, DAS's history. We have been in existence for just over 51 years now. The roots of the organisation, though, started before that. Back in the early 70s, there was an organisation called the East Anglian Aviation Society. They're actually based up at Bassingbourn, up the road, which again is another USAF station. It was a bomber station in the war. They were focused very much on conservation, on restoration of military aircraft. And Russ referred to, in the early 70s, the airfield being almost dormant. It certainly wasn't open to the public. And I think at that stage, the IWM had started to move. You'll correct me. I was praying that you were actually going to come up with something that meshed with what I was saying, and I wouldn't be contradicting you. Anyway, the IWM started moving some of their collection to the Duxford site. As I say, not open to the public, but there were no conservation staff here at the time. I think the airfield was manned probably by 2 security guards to make sure that the local youths didn't get on site and play a bit of havoc. However, and I don't know how this came about, but the East Anglian Aviation Society obviously had a link with IWM, and in the early 70s began to do work for IWM. A unit transferred down here based on site and worked on IWM's military aircraft, particularly I think a number of the aircraft which are now in the American Air Forces Museum were originally renovated by East Anglian Aviation Society members. In addition to working for IWM, they apparently did work on private collections. There was, I read of a Liberator that was brought in here to be worked on by EAS before it went off to the States, and various other bits and pieces. And in doing all this work, it seems that these guys built quite a reputation for themselves because, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in a few minutes, but in 1974, the board of directors at Danair decided that rather than scrap one of their Comet aircraft, they'd offer it to the Duxford Aviation Society for preservation. We're very pleased that that happened because it formed the first of the aircraft in our air collection, which now spans 13 aircraft. But it seems to have created something of a catalyst for splitting the East Anglian Aviation Society up. A number of the members that were down here suddenly began to be interested in commercial aviation and showing and restoring historical civil aircraft, whereas the original grouping were still keen to stay in the military side. That resulted in 1975 in a split between the two parties. The military guys went back to Bassingbourn, the others formed DAS in the April of 75, so hence we are 51 years old today. Our collection, say, consists of 13 aeroplanes, the oldest of which is an Avro York. Again, I've picked a couple of aeroplanes out because we're relatively short on time. The York is one I'll talk of because it's a particular favourite of mine. And we, excuse me, we work very closely with IWM to present the civilian side of what is really a very similar story. It was a collection that was put together originally by enthusiasts and operated certainly in the late 70s largely for enthusiasts, although that developed. The early years of DAS were extremely active. Not only did they continue to do restoration on the various airframes that were gathering, but before IWM had picked up their operations here, apparently, reading through the records, DAS members had helped restore the hangars that had been severely hit by storms through, I think, the one part of the 70s. I read one reference to the guys having to wear hard hats to go in to do restoration work because bits were falling out of the roof. They also, a number of the members formed the bulk of the airfield fire service. They were trained to CAA standards for operating on civil airfields. They provided fuel service for visiting aircraft here, and also in the later 70s, along I think with the Cambridge Gliding Club, who were based here then, and the Shuttleworth Aviation Society, they arranged and put on the major weekend air shows that Adam and his team obviously have developed so successfully in more future times. But as activities built up with IWM ramping up their activities here and wanting to make sure that the delivery of presentations to the public were uniform. Something like, I think it's about 7 or 8 years ago now, they approached DAS and said, can you get yourself accredited as a proper museum so that we can present this uniform or more uniform style of delivery to the public. That took about 3 years to do, but we eventually did get fully accredited 4 years ago, so we are now a museum in our own right, as well as a charity, and hopefully going from strength to strength. As the guy said, I obviously did the Concorde nose droop this morning. That is the biggest single draw, certainly for DAS, for people in the museum. I think probably for IWM also. I think we get about 400-something thousand visitors on site here a year, over half of which we record going through Concorde. So that keeps us pretty busy. Because I am looking at the clock and I'm getting nods from Neville that not to overrun, so I'll be very conscious. I've picked out just a couple of the not unusual, but they are unique aeroplanes in the collection for, here we go, it's coming up hopefully. There we are. I mentioned the Comet earlier on. That arrived courtesy of the Danair board back in 1974 when it was still EAS, the aircraft that caused the split in the two organisations. The reason this aeroplane is so special, it is unique. It is the very aircraft that operated the first ever commercial jet service between New York and London with, at the time, BOAC. It went to Dan some years after, obviously, and was retired by them from service before coming here. At the same time, one of its sister ships flew London to New York. They crossed the mid-Atlantic, but this is quite a unique piece of aviation history for us. One thing we like to point out, I don't wish to cause offence, but we as a nation achieved that 22 days before Boeing flew the 707 on the same route. Moving on. We are
we're constantly looking at ways of keeping things relevant, and because of the uniqueness of this aeroplane, a lot of research was done. Russ referred to this airspace hangar being opened in 2007. Before the aircraft was included in the displays here, the guys decided to repaint into the original BOAC scheme of 1958, the time of that record jet service. So we repainted the aeroplane. It had been in airspace for 18, 19 years, and as a result of IWM needing to refresh their own displays and the lack of space that we have on site here, it was decided that both the Comet and the York, and in fact the Dove that's now outside, would all be moved out of airspace. Not surprisingly, that gave us quite a few sleepless nights. A huge amount of work was done by our conservation guys, who are very enthusiastic, I'm pleased to say, and a lot of research into how on earth do we weatherproof these aeroplanes to cope with the outdoor climate. In the end, we tried a number of different paints, and did we need to repaint it? Did we find another way? We couldn't convince ourselves that repainting with the facilities that are available here was actually going to work. So in the end, after quite a lot of research, we discovered that the BizJet community use some form of clear coat polish, which we were reliably informed will give a pretty good result for about 3 years. So it's all hand applied. So both the Comet and the York, subsequently Dove, went into the conservation hall for about a week, and we pitched up with a whole load of volunteers and had them polish the aircraft. I don't know if any of you have been outside to take a look down the line today. The Comet's sitting out there in its glory. It's been out there about a year, and it actually looks, by comparison to some of the other aircraft in the line, it still looks very good. This clear coat covering seems to be able to slick the weather off a lot better than the paint finishes on some of the previous airplanes. The other thing we did, it was actually going on, it's almost coincidental, but the other thing we did with Comet was decide that we should refresh the interior display. And in keeping with putting the colour scheme back to its 1958 operation, we decided we'd revamp the interior and the forward cabin, the first class cabin. Some difficulty in finding 1958 seats, not surprisingly. That's one of BOAC's advertising pictures from 1958, using the semi-reclining seats that were available to passengers in those days. Our solution, ultimately, there was no way we were going to find 1950 seats, so our solution was that we would rebuild them. Through industry contacts, we managed to source, left-hand picture there, we managed to source some old A320 triples. And after a lot of work, which included, for us for the first time, using 3D printing, the right-hand slide there shows the arm end cap and the cup holder in its prototype and its final phase. And the guys said to me when they were going through this, "Oh, yeah, we've got the design correct. We've used CAD." It wasn't until I saw this I realised that CAD stands for Cardboard Aided Design. But the seats have been pretty well completed. There's another picture there of the Speedbird logo that was in the arm end cap. You can see them in place there, right hand side, very nearly completed seats. The seats have gone into the aeroplane now and have, I think, improved the ambience, I call it, within the cabin. What we can do now, because the seats are relatively new, we can let people sit in them, and when we've got them, we can tell them the full story of the aircraft and all the other bits and pieces around it. So there's the Comet there, out in its new place in the lineup, looking quite smart. I mentioned the other aircraft. I'm going to get the nod, I think, very shortly. Okay, right, let's carry on. The other aircraft that I was going to pick up on was the Avro York. Again, a very unique aeroplane. It's one of only 2 Yorks that survived. The other one's up at Cosford. Funnily enough, they've got theirs painted in military, but it never operated with the Air Force. Ours is in Danaz's colours again. We seem to have quite an association with Dan. But anyway, ours is in Danaz's colours, who were the last operator. It had been an Air Force aircraft, and in fact, I feel a special connection to this aircraft. It's purely by coincidence that I discovered about 4 years ago when I, for the first time ever, lifted the earpiece to the info bar that we provide for the public wanting to know a little bit more, that it was delivered to, funnily enough, 242 Squadron, which had remustered in 1945 from Fighter Command to Transport Command. And coincidentally, this info bar mentioned MW232, delivered to 242 Squadron, which rang a bell. And I went back home and looked through the logbooks of an uncle who had died some 15 years ago, who had flown Stirlings on ops in World War II. On finishing his tour, he was remustered to Transport Command as an instructor. And funnily enough, MW232 is in his logbook about 9 times in January, February 46. So I feel I have a special connection to this. But anyway, the aeroplane was involved in the Berlin airlift. In fact, this particular aircraft apparently flew the 100,000th ton into Berlin during the airlift. Unfortunately, not quite such a noble finish to her career. She spent, I think, about 22 years, 22 years at Lasham, including within that time, she was a scout hut for the local community. But Dan again offered the aircraft to DAS to restore, and the team went down to Lasham over a period. That's the aircraft when it first arrived here at Duxford. That's 40 years ago tomorrow, I discovered this morning, but 6 low loaders. The aeroplane then spent the best part of 20 years undergoing restoration from 1986 before going into airspace. That included the flight deck, a huge amount of work, and we're so lucky because we got some brilliant, enthusiastic, skilled people to rebuild these things and keep them alive and show the history and development of commercial aviation. You can see that's definitely a World War II bomber. And there's the York sitting outside in all its glory. Again, somebody asked about plans to put the aircraft inside again. We would love to, but we do appreciate that IWM have got a real issue with space on site. They themselves have constraints over what they can do, bearing in mind the historic significance of the site. So we muddle along with a few heated words on occasion, but we keep it in private. And I think, between us and the other partners on site, we present, I would suggest, probably the best aviation heritage museum in Europe. I'm open to criticism if anybody disagrees, but don't forget there are 3 of us here who have the same views. Just to touch very briefly on some of the things that we have to do behind the scenes, so to speak, to keep these aeroplanes looking reasonably good. There's a picture there of, you probably didn't make it out, the pretty awful corrosion. That's in the avionics bay of the VC-10 some 2 years ago. That's now been dealt with. But we are, for example, at the moment, sorry Matt, I keep knocking you. At the moment we're going through the start of a major inspection program. We've got engineers who are either still working in the industry or have recently come out, and we're going through a process of boroscoping engine mounts, undercarriage mounts, wing spars, just to make sure that these things are good for another 50, 60, 70 years. Bearing in mind a lot of them have been sitting outside now for in excess of 50 years. The other thing that we find is a real problem and a no-no for heritage aircraft: don't park your aeroplanes over grass. Unfortunately, space constraints again on the site. VC-10 is a big aeroplane. We don't have any choice. We have to leave the part of the starboard wing out over the grass. To that point, it probably creates more work than any other. It's not perhaps the most illustrative picture, but you can see here the little grey areas all the way down the inside of the wing. They're all above the grass. This is where the guys have been working to get rid of the corrosion. And that's just the primer that's gone back on top of work to try and keep corrosion down. It's a constant battle. Thankfully, we've got people who are skilled to do it, who enjoy doing it, but we rely virtually entirely on public money to donate and help us keep these things going. That is, in effect, it, I think, from me. Just to say, we are always looking for funding. So if there are any wealthy benefactors out there that want to become involved, excellent. Please contact me. We always look for volunteers. You don't have to have any particular skills other than an interest in aviation and a passion to either work on the things or talk to people about it. It's great fun. Thank you.
Anyone got any questions for Mike before we let him go? Nick?
Just a very quick one. My father flew the VC-10 and it's a favourite aeroplane of mine. Have you thought about killing the grass?
My understanding is it's historic grass. No? Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Right, we've got some VT coming up next. Nice little video that's been sent in. And for those of you who follow him on YouTube will know Mentor Pilot. Does a great little channel on YouTube. And he sent us in a little memento for the 600 show. So we're going to play that now.
Hi guys, Mentor Pilot here. I just wanted to take the opportunity of wishing Nev and the whole of the Plain Talking UK team the very, very best for your 600 show at Duxford. And also, hello to all of the guests that have joined you there, as well as sort of the hundreds of people that will be watching this on YouTube. Now, I know how hard it can be to create this type of podcasts and content all the time, finding new things to talk about. So I really appreciate what you do, and I hope that you're going to have an absolutely fantastic time over there in Duxford. I wish I could be there, but I'm not. So take care of yourself and see you.
I mean, the good news there, I don't think we've done any new content for about 5 years, have we?
For sending that over. So always good to hear from him. And that is where we are going to move into a comfort or coffee break, as we like to say. So if you want to just go and grab yourselves a drink, a little refresh, and if you could all be back at 3:35, that'd be great. Or be back at 3:30. We'll say 3:30. There we go. Thanks. Right, we're going to move on with the next part of the day. I'm going to hand things over to Andy to introduce our next part.
Yes, well, welcome back, everyone, to the second part of this very special show. Next up, we have another very special guest speaker. He's well known to all of us as a regular contributor and listener to the show. It's Derek Grinner-Smith. Now, Grinner is going to take us on a fast-paced gallop through an amazing 45 years, you wouldn't think it looking at him, would you, of his military and civil aviation career. So, Grinner, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for the intro, Andy. And yeah, despite my youthful looks, I actually have held a pilot's license for 45 years now, which is a bit of a scary thing. I quite often get asked that question when we get people popping their heads into the flight deck during, when we get to destination. So how long have you been flying? And I'm always sort of a bit over 40 years, So I did, when I offered to do this, Nev said to me, "How long do you want?" And I said, "How long do you want me to talk for?" So he said, 25 minutes. So I said, well, it'll be a right gallop through. So this is going to be a bit of a gallop through 45 years. So if you could pop a bit of a photo up there, please. This is me in my happy place, because although I've got a background in all sorts of aviation, this is what I actually love doing, flying sailplanes. Note I call it sailplanes and not gliders, because I go places in sailplanes, whereas gliders sort of drift down and land. So I'll talk a bit more about that later. Where did it all start? When I was a kid. My dad got me into flying. It's totally his fault, and he's not around to defend himself anymore, so I can put the blame solely on him, but he used to take it on the chin and go, yeah, it was my fault. Dad did national service in the Air Force in the early 50s. He worked on Meteors and Vampires, and they were the first 2 model aircraft that he built me, the Airfix ones, which are still for sale now. And he took me to an air show. It was in 1973, I was 8 years old, and it was RF Leconfield. For those who don't know Leconfield, it used to be a fighter base in East Yorkshire, just north of Hull. Hull, not Hull, it's Hull where we come from. And I remember seeing the Lightning getting airborne, doing its display, and he got airborne, did the standard rotation takeoff, and when the noise subsided, I sort of grabbed on my dad's arm and said, Dad, one day I want to do that. So this is the story, sort of how I got there. Whereas nowadays, the inspirations for kids, if you can call it inspiration, are social media stars and influencers. My real heroes were the ones that Russell was talking about at the very beginning. You know, those fighter pilots, particularly those fighter pilots who were Battle of Britain guys. And I was very lucky because I got to know this guy. Anybody recognise him? Probably not, because although he was the highest scoring RAF ace in the Battle of Britain, purely the Battle of Britain period, he was a sergeant pilot, so he got no credit for it. His name's Ginger Lacey, Sergeant James Harry Lacey, born in Wetherby, so he's a good Yorkshire chap, and he was the chief instructor of the flying club just down the road from where I lived when I was a kid. When I got to sort of about the age of 12, 13, my dad took me down there because my dad had met him at Leconfield in those early 50s and said, my lad's mad keen on flying, is there any chance he could hang around your airfield and clean some aeroplanes and what have you? And he said, absolutely. And so he was my real inspiration. And we became really good friends until he died in 1989. I have got his signature in my logbook a number of times when he revalidated my private pilot's license. He also wrote to the commandant of the Officer and Aircrew Selection Centre, which back in those days was at Bigham Hill, to write a recommendation from me, which... That's, well, whether it did any good, Nick, or not, I don't know, but I still think it's pretty damn cool that you got a Battle of Britain ace writing you a letter of recommendation, so I'll stick with that one. So he was one of my inspirations. I joined the Air Cadets, of course, because all I wanted to do was be a fighter pilot, okay? None of this commercial flying rubbish back then when I was a kid. Sorry, I appreciate that, but I wanted to be a fighter pilot. So I joined the Air Cadets. That was me in the shooting team. You can tell the smile, okay? And that smile got me the nickname Grinner, where on day 2 of ground school, when I started basic flying training, and it's basically stuck with me ever since, my wife even calls me Grinner. Okay, so, you know, it's a given. I'm taking that to my graveyard. Obviously, with the Air Cadets, I did quite a bit of flying, but the great thing was when I got to 16, I went solo in one of those, the Slingsby T61F Venture Mark II at the Volunteer Gliding School at RAF Linton on Ouse. That particular aeroplane is an old Air Cadet one that was sold off when the RAF sold them off when they bought the Grob 109Bs, the Vigilance. And that particular one, lovely colour scheme, because I was actually not instrumental, but I did some of the work on the aeroplane with the recovering and the spraying of it. I actually had a share in that aircraft for about 6 years. Bloody uncomfortable. Awful aeroplane to fly in, because I get a dead leg after about half an hour in one, and unfortunately I still get the opportunity to instructing those these days. So that was age 16, and that was November 1981, so that's when I first went solo. In 1982, I was really lucky to get a flying scholarship through the RAF. And back in those days, it was worth 30 hours. And the PPL course back then, the approved PPL course was about 38 hours. So I did the 30 hours at Leicester. And if anybody knows the aerobatic world, a chap called Barry Tempest, he was my instructor, so I learned a lot of aerobatics while I was there, which was brilliant because I really enjoyed it. And that was me building up the 8 hours doing cross-country stuff in a Cessna 172 in order to get me 38 hours. And so in the summer of 1982, I was furnished with a private pilot's license, number PP33288A. I can sort of vaguely remember. That's not the number I've got now, but that was what I had then. That was about 5 months before I passed my driving test. So that was pretty good. I was doing my A-levels at the time, and I was sort of looking, you know, do I try and get into the Air Force? Do I try and go to university? I thought, I was spending all my weekends at the local flying club or doing air cadet stuff. I just wanted to be a fighter pilot. I just wanted to go in. So I thought, can't hurt but apply. And amazingly, I got through the selection. So on the 31st of July 1983, I arrived at Cranwell as an 18-year-old, a bit sort of lost. But there we go. That was the bunch of reprobates that I ended up going through the officer training course with in the very, very, very hot summer of 1983, discovering the delights of wearing of the need to wear long johns to stop chafing in the middle of the summer. So things you learn about, you know, body survival. Got through that without any issues and started flying training. Now, because I had a PPL, you went straight into jets. And I was really lucky. At the time, there were 3 basic flying training schools in the Air Force. There was Cranwell, which was the preserve of the graduates. You know, the vast majority of graduates went to Cranwell. And to you too, Nick. Then there was Linton on Ouse, just north of York. And then there was the best school of them all, 7 FTS RAF Church Fenton. And I was on 18 course there. Jet Provost Mark III, constant thrust variable noise. Somebody made a mention to it earlier on. Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And it really was an underwhelming aeroplane. However, as Nick and I both agreed earlier on, you still probably spent most of your time behind it, even though it wasn't a particularly fast aeroplane, but a brilliant, brilliant trainer. I do remember the first takeoff when we did the Famil, the guy let the brakes off, and I remember thinking, is that it? Because it was a stately trundle down the runway. You know, certainly less acceleration than a piston engine aeroplane that I'd been used to flying. But did about, I think it was about 100 hours, 85 to 100 hours on the Mark III. And at that time, RF pilot training, everybody did that initial part of the course. And then you got streamed. And you either got streamed Group 1 Phase 1, which was fast jet, or you got streamed Group 2 multi-engine, or Group 3, which was helicopters. There were 12 of us, got to the end of that phase, and it was sort of evenly split in that 6 of us were chosen to go fast jet, 3 went multi-engine, 3 went helicopters. And that's me shortly after my first solo in the JP. Dreadful photo because it was proper film back in those days. That's a scan out of a book, but going on to the fast jet stream, that's the Jet Provost Mark V. Now that was a better beast, okay, because it had the bigger engine, it had a pressurized cockpit. The coolest thing about that aeroplane was taxiing out past the crash gate at the threshold where all the public used to stand, and it had an electric motor for the canopy. So rather than having to crank a canopy close like the Mark III had, this was a little switching, and then it all went nice and quiet. It had a lot more power, it went faster, and that was great fun. So loved that, passed that bit of the course, and moved, sorry, let me get rid of all that stuff, to Valley, when the aeroplanes were painted a proper colour for training, the red and white. And they used to have a lot of aeroplanes out on the flight line. I do have another photo of the whole of the main flight line, and that was just one of 4 that they had at Valley at the time. And there's 20 aircraft on that flight line. Hawk T Mark 1, that was the summer of 1985. And yeah, I still had hair back in those days. In fact, I had hair for quite a few years, and it's just sort of got thinner as the years have gone on. Hawk was a brilliant aeroplane to fly, obviously a totally different beast, and now this was more akin to what you were going to go and fly on the front line. About 85 hours on that. I had 1 or 2 little stumbles along the way with low-level navigation, maybe because my primary flying instructor was actually a Royal Navy helicopter pilot, so maybe he probably got lost above about 2 miles a minute, and of course we were flying around at 420, which was 7 miles a minute. Nick will have seen a lot of this in his time at Valley. And I got awarded my wings. That is Air Vice Marshal Sir David Harcourt Smith. And I've no idea what his background was, but that was the 14th of November 1985. So, and then moved on in the new year of 1986 to RAF Chivener, which was the RAF's best base, worst kept secret. I don't know. It was a great place to be. And I remember the welcoming talk that morning, which was, "Gentlemen, welcome to Fighter Command. This is where the real hard work starts." And as you can see, we went from flying red and white ice cream wagons around the sky to flying something that looked mean and grey with a gun pack on it and pylons on the wing that you could hang practice bomb carriers on. And we started to learn the trade of being fighter pilots. And that was great. I loved that course. It was absolutely brilliant. And it, just going through all this process reinforced this is what I actually wanted to do. The result of that was that I got the posting of my dreams. Initially, I'd wanted to go Harriers. God knows why. But anyway, going back to that very first air show, remember I said to my dad, "That's what I want to fly"? Well, I did. And that is me in a Mark 6 Lightning, just north of Hull. Photos taken by Ian Black, who's a fairly famous, he was the last Lightning pilot, successful Lightning pilot through training. I was the second to last. So, I got 2 years on the aeroplane. I've never been short of fuel again. It's the only aeroplane I've ever flown where you could sit on the ground and watch the fuel gauges going down. And I'm not joking, you could see the gauge actually moving if you were sitting there. The shortest flight I ever had in a Lightning Mark 6 was about 16 minutes. That was doing air combat, where we basically got airborne, climbed into the overhead, burners in, a lot of this, came back and landed on minimum fuel. I got 400 hours on the aeroplane in 2 years. Most significantly, the morning of the 27th of April 1988 came along. It was the very, very last morning that the Lightning Force was going to be holding quick reaction alert. Russell again mentioned that earlier on in his talk about Duxford. We were holding that until midday, and there were two of us that were sitting QRA that morning. The aircraft at midday was going to come off QRA. It was going to be down declared from NATO. That was it. That was going to be the end of the Lightning in operational service. After about an hour on QRA, the buzzer went. We both jumped into our aeroplanes. Thankfully for me, the number one went US. So I ended up launching and flew across the country into Cardigan Bay, where I fired the very last missiles off aircraft XS-903 Bravo Alpha, which is the aircraft that Yorkshire Air Museum has got. And so that was pretty cool. That's me sitting that's a still taken off some video that somebody found on YouTube of some documentary that I never knew existed. So I thought I'd add that in there. Oops. And that was me just after landing at Valley to refuel and debrief after I'd fired the missiles. So that was pretty cool. 27th of April 1988. That was the day before my 23rd birthday. What a great birthday present that was. Anyway, reality kicked back in, and I had to go and fly this thing, the Tornado F3, which I know Nick absolutely hated. Do you know what? Back then, I hated it too. It was an absolute dog. It had been brought into service. The radar didn't work properly. The rest of the systems were pretty poor, and it was a frustrating aircraft, wasn't it, back in those days, Nick? However, I wanted to try and help make things better, so I volunteered to go and do the Qualified Weapons Instructors course, which, for those who don't know it, the easiest way to say it, it's like Top Gun, but more difficult, or like Top Gun used to be, but more difficult. I think they've made Top Gun a little bit more upmarket now, and a little bit closer to what the US USAF Fighter Weapons School does. But it's essentially the same qualification. It's 4.5 months of really, really, really hard work, and it's like taking a degree course and cramming it into 4.5 months. You've got a lot of theory, a lot of flying, and you've got to meet the grade on every single trip that you fly. But I returned back. That was in the summer of 1990. And for those of you who know your history, particularly history of the Middle East, know what happened in Kuwait in 1990. So we got all involved in that, and thankfully for us, that was a great time for the development of the aeroplane. And over the next few years, the aircraft improved and improved and improved. That's one of our pretty shot of a 23 Squadron aeroplane. 23 Squadron was one of the 3 squadrons that was based at RAF Leaming in Yorkshire. So I ended up returning back to my homeland of Yorkshire in 1988, and that's one of our aircrafts over Akrotiri in Cyprus, because it's a nice place to go, and as you can see, pretty picture. In the time that I was at Leaming as well, I went and volunteered to go and fly on the Air Experience flight, because of course I'd done a lot of flying in Chipmunks. As an air cadet, I wanted to give back, so I did that for about six or 7 years, and that was great fun. And I actually carried on for a number of years flying Chipmunks privately as well. That's my Top Gun photo. And my navigator there, Jennifer, that's the guy who's now an olive oil producer in Italy. So, and actually, that's his wife's favourite photo as well. So that's a photo of me blatting down the valleys in the Lake District, taken by some very keen photographer, and just an F3 in a hardened shelter. Right. I became a flight commander on 25 Squadron, and one of the things that I got handed to me was a file as I arrived. They went, "You've got the Shepway Air Show." I went, "What?" And they went, yeah. And then what I discovered was previous boss, or the first boss of 25 Squadron Tornado F3s, found out a bit of the Battle of Britain history of 25 Squadron, and they were a Battle of Britain squadron, albeit flying Blenheims in the Battle of Britain based at Hawkinge, which sits just on the cliffs over the top of Folkestone. And so the squadron got involved every year with a formation display. I was the pilot flight commander, so it was mine. I led it for 3 years. This was a photo taken in September of 2000. It was the 60th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. So the organiser, who was one of the display coordinators from here actually, came up with an idea. She worked out that every single RAF aeroplane that was taking part in that display actually had a warbird equivalent in the display. So she said, what do you think the chances would be of getting a formation fly past with the now and the then? And I said, well, you can ask. Anyway, the RAF gave permission. And so that was the I led a 4-ship first of all, and we did a few passes, high speed, laid down a bit of noise. And then I went along the cliffs and met up with, and it was mentioned earlier, that aeroplane, flown by John Romain from next door, Aircraft Restoration Company, and we did a flyby down Folkestone. So that's him going as fast as the Blenheim would go, and that's me going not quite as slowly as the F3 would go, but that was a really cool thing to do. I met up with John only a few years ago. He never had a copy of that photo. I went, oh, I'll send you one then. So fantastic. So yeah, so that was a pretty cool thing. The other really cool thing, I mentioned that all my heroes were Battle of Britain pilots. Well, back in 2000, there was still quite a lot of them around, and they were all at Folkestone, staying in the same hotel as us. So we had a weekend with all my heroes. It was brilliant. It's a great memory, absolutely fantastic memory. I left the Air Force. I went to work for that lot. And I had a very happy time there until COVID hit. I mean, the time, it wasn't a very happy time during COVID anyway for anybody. I flew the 737 for about 5 years, a lovely aeroplane, but not as lovely as that lovely aeroplane, the A320. And certainly my preferred mount of the two. Became a line training captain there, so absolutely love training people. You might gather, having flown, in the military as a weapons instructor, being a trainer in the commercial world was brilliant. And I did just about 18 years at Acme Orange until another bunch came along. Sorry, there's just a lovely picture of an A321 Neo aircraft. There's me smiling. But then I moved over to this lot 3.5 years ago, flying the A321 exclusively, and I'm still line training and I'm sim training as well there, which is just great fun, and I still enjoy going to work. So that is really the commercial side of it, because there's not really an awful lot else to say on that. My fun bit. This is me flying a Eurofox tug aircraft out of Sutton Bank. And it's just a pretty photo because I'm just flying north away from the airfield. I'm actually towing a glider, which you can't see because it's hidden away behind all the ironwork. But my fun bit is actually flying sailplanes, flying gliders. I instruct on them, I examine on them. This is me on an instructing flight, actually a very special instructing flight, because my student that day is my youngest daughter, that's Hannah. At the time she was 14, and she, having seen Top Gun Maverick, she wanted to get in there and do some flying. That is her thermaling away. She's probably on about her third or fourth flight, annoyingly good. Yeah, Hannah, this is how to do it. Thanks, I've control, and off she goes. And unfortunately, she's sort of fallen out of that because GCSE's got in the way, and she's learning to drive at the moment. But it's it's great to do that bit. That's the Eurofox tug that I was in. I just thought it was a pretty photo because we've got we've got 3 of those at the club now. It's an ultralight aircraft with a Rotax engine in it, and it tows gliders immensely well for about a quarter of the cost of a conventional aeroplane, particularly if you're looking at a Piper Pawnee. My real love is going down to the Alps and flying gliders in the Alps. That's one I used to own. And this is me, well, the airfield that you can see just behind, that is a runway, is in a lovely narrow valley. It's called La Motte du Caire. Oops, don't mean to do that. And that's another shot of me a little bit further down the valley. But this was just a couple of years ago with my new glider now, and flying at a much greater height. That's up at around about 17,000 feet over the southern French Alps. The scenery is just amazing. I absolutely love it down there. I would normally be down there at this time of the year, but I came here instead. Yeah, even a smile on my face at that height. I am on oxygen at that stage. Another view of the mountains. It reminds you how insignificant you are as a human being when you start flying amongst the ground that's that big. You know, particularly when you're actually in amongst it, which is the most fun part. So that's what keeps me going. That's my real fun flying. But you know, I can't go away from the fact that I still love going to work each day and training people, and you know, spending a day with a great crew, because it is an awful lot of fun. That's a little bit down in the gnarly stuff in the Alps. That's a mountain called Pic de Bure, and that is my aeroplane after landing off one of those flights at a lovely airfield called Sisteron, which is in the Durance Valley, which is the valley that's just east of the Rhone. So that really was a gallop through 45 years of flying. So anybody want to know any stories, you can nobble me later in the pub, in the bar. If anybody's got any questions now, then I'm happy to take them.
So maybe you can elaborate later at the pub.
Yeah.
What is that one moment? What is that most rewarding moment that, when I ask this question, you think back, this is the moment that I am so proud of?
Oh, wow. Actually, that is quite a difficult one, because I think that is a really difficult question to answer, because I think there has been so many over the years. I mean, I think, you know, when I finally became combat ready on the Lightning, and you go, right, I've finally arrived. You know, this has been 3 years of really hard work. It was only 3 years back then. I saw something on LinkedIn yesterday where a guy had just got his wings after 7 years of training. Going, this is ridiculous. Yeah, it was 3 years of really hard work. I suppose that was it, but actually it was just the start. You know, because I then, you know, changing over from leaving the military, and that changeover, as you well know, that transition into civil aviation could be quite a jump. I was ready for it because I'd done 20 years, and I suppose successfully making that transition over, you know, was probably the second point in there. Yeah, I'll probably think of something a bit more prophetic later, but yeah.
You said the shortest flight in the Lightning was 16 minutes.
Yeah.
What was your longest flight in the Lightning?
It was about five and a half hours. Yeah, it was coming home from Cyprus, and it was air-to-air refueling. So airborne out of Akrotiri, down the Mediterranean to Sicily, turn right, because we couldn't go up through the Balkans back in those days, and you weren't allowed to go up through Austria and Switzerland, so you had to go around them. Following VC-10 tankers on the way home. So yeah, my longest ever flight in a fast jet was 8 hours 45 minutes. That was taking a Tornado F3 across the Indian Ocean from Muscat to the east coast of Malaysia, to Kuantan. That was bum-numbing. That was seriously bum-numbing. And the weather was horrible when we got there as well. Somebody back there. Yeah.
Yeah, you just mentioned that you were proud of having successfully made that transition from military aviation flying to civil.
Yeah.
But what was the hardest part about that?
Not having the military attitude. You know, military leadership is a bit more of, you know, follow me, we're going into battle. Whereas, you know, in the commercial aviation world, it's all based around crew resource management and getting your team to follow you through, not coercion, because that's the wrong word, but you know, everybody being together rather than one person being the standout leader. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, somebody is still the aircraft commander, and when push comes to the shove, you know, somebody's got to make a decision, and that's the really important thing. You can do all the niceties of what do you think, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to go. This is what we're doing. Yeah, but that was probably the biggest challenge, was not having that military mentality. Right, this is what I'm going to go off and do. So yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, Derek.
Fantastic.
That was absolutely fantastic, Derek. Thank you very much indeed, and thanks for cramming so much into such a short period of time. That was brilliant. We've got another piece of video to play you now from another visitor who sadly couldn't make it today. Scott Bateman, that you might well know from YouTube and social media generally. Scott was going to be here, but unfortunately work got in the way, as he said. But Scott very kindly sent us a video wishing us good luck for the show. So let's play that now.
Hello everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic time at Duxford. I just wanted to send a little note to say I'm really sorry I couldn't be there despite the best laid plans of mice and men. Work has got in the way, and unfortunately I'm having to work today. But I did want to send you a little message to apologise, one, for not being there, and two, well, I'm not very good at these messages, but what I wanted to say is aviation is a community that binds us all together. It's a passion. It's something that we all love, and I would have loved to have been there with you today, and I'm so sorry that I'm missing it. But what's coming for the coming year for me? Well, actually a couple of big things. Spitfire at 90 got something coming up at the end of the year relating to Spitfire, and then early into next year it is the 80th anniversary of the first supersonic flight, and we'll be doing something pretty cool around that. But what are we doing it for? Well, actually I'm launching a brand new platform in the late summer, early autumn, called the Crew Room, which will be a hub for all things general and defence aviation. I'm hoping that you can join me in the Crew Room for some AvGeek fun in the coming 12 months. Keep an eye out. It will appear eventually. www.crewroom.aero will be where you can find all the details about the Crew Room in the next couple of months. I hope you enjoy your day. And from one iconic aviation location, for those of you who haven't already figured it out, I'm in front of Checkerboard Hill in Hong Kong, to you enjoying yourself at Duxford. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to catch up with you all very, very soon. Bye.
Well, some of you will have probably met Alan already, and thank you for coming over from Ireland today. It's great to see you. Alan is going to talk to us about some of the challenging flying on fixed wing assets that he operates for the Irish Coast Guard.
Thanks for the introduction, Nick, and on behalf of myself and 2XL, they've asked me to pass on their congratulations, guys, for your 600th episode. Personally, I'd like to thank you very much for the the help over my career as well. You kind of got me back on track when I was out of aviation, so I'm back in again. Thanks, guys. So I'm here to talk to you today about, first of all, my own career, like Grinner, a bit of how I got here and I managed to APG. And then we're going to talk about the Coast Guard, the Irish Coast Guard mission that we've got. So I have been told to say that all of the images and the videos are public, so there's nothing classified in here because we do have some military contracts. So yeah, everything is public sourced. So first slide, a little bit about myself. First flight, Weston Airport in July 1998. Looks very different now. It's greenfield then, and there was a couple of helicopters and aircraft. I got about 20 hours up, and like most people when you're young, kind of 17, 18, there's a few distractions in life, and yeah, flying kind of took a back seat. 2008, I started my ATPL training in Jandakot. Captain Nick knows the airport well. I think he did a story with his, was that your niece? Your niece Elise. She was a flying instructor in the Royal Aero Club, Rakwa, in Jandakot. I think it was the busiest general aviation airport in the Southern Hemisphere at the time. Dual runway, you could have 12 aircraft in the circuit, left and right circuits. It's pretty hectic. And it was great flying, great scenery, beautiful coastline on the coastline of Western Australia, and by God did he teach you how to navigate, because visual navigation down there, there's nothing. There's no roads, there's no railways. Came back to Europe and it was a dream. So yeah, it was really good learning from my trip down there. Came back to do my multi-engine in Cranfield. At the time it was with Bonus Aviation. They've moved to Bournemouth since, and yeah, it was a massive learning curve from a very quiet radio in Perth, Western Australia, to London Control, which you'd have to spend 10 minutes with your finger pressed trying to get a call in. So we all know what it's like. You'd nearly be at Daventry before you'd even tell them you were airborne. So yeah, it was good fun. Back to home, to MCC in Simtech, like a few other people I think have done their MCCs there in the past. And it's 2010, so it was a massive financial crisis, and I thought I'd walk out of the airlines out of training into a job, seeing as a lot of my colleagues had done the same. Didn't work out like that at all. Arrived back and there was loads of airlines going bust. There was a huge amount of pilots, and it was actually my wife got talking to a flying school out in Weston again, except Weston was a very different place. So the one I'd left, it was now massively developed. It had been bought by a hotelier who had a lot of money and made a massive big terminal building, some hangars, and yeah, very different place. So I did about 5 years of instructing at Weston, and it was hands down the best rating I ever got was my instructor's rating, because if you think you know something, try teaching it. That's when you realize how much you don't actually know. So I must say that was really, really instrumental. And I still do enjoy instructing. I've still got my instructor's rating, still current. So we'll have a look at some of the aircraft I've flown down through the years. Actually, let me go back to that slide there. Just 1 second. We'll go back to... So just other qualifications that I do have. I kind of dabble in business as well. So I've got a Bachelor of Business. I've got a certificate in Aviation Security Instruction and a diploma in Aircraft Acquisition, Leasing and Financing. So I've kind of got a bit of business on the side as well that helps me make the days down in Shannon pass easier, because sometimes it's pretty quiet down there. So types flown. I don't know if you're aware of the Cicada Rally E. It was the first aircraft I ever flew. An interesting little aircraft with leading edge slats that seem to randomly deploy asymmetrically, so you'd be going into a stall and you'd hear a clunk and that'd be the left one, and then a second clunk and that'd be the right one, and yeah, it's pretty scary as you're going into the stall and it seems like the wings coming off. But yeah, that was an interesting little aircraft that I enjoyed flying. Then, like most people, spent a lot of hours on the 152 and the 150, the 172. the Mooney M20J, which I absolutely loved. I think if I was going to buy an aircraft, it would definitely be the Mooney. People have said that it's kind of the ideal aircraft for retired airline pilots and doctors because there's a lot of gauges and it looks very, very fancy on the inside. It doesn't go very fast, about 140, 150 knots, but you know, it's a very, very nice little aircraft to fly. And then I did a few hours on the Slingsby as well when I was doing my UPRT training. It's the only aircraft I've ever walked out to and they said you've got to put your parachute on, so that's very disconcerting. And when you're sitting in the aircraft on top of the parachute, yeah, not really, it was great fun though, absolutely great fun. And I hadn't flown in about 8 years and I got into this and I'd lost my sea legs or my air legs because I felt sick as a dog coming back after 2 hours and that. But yeah, really, really good aircraft to fly. Apparently Prince Harry did some training on that exact aircraft. I don't know how true that is. Then onto the multi-engine stuff, I flew Piper Seminoles in bonus. And then in Ireland, I flew the Beechcraft Duchess. Beautiful plane to fly, I really enjoyed that. And then moved on to the Diamond Twin Star to do my most recent multi-engine instrument rating. So that was my first class cockpit adventure. Then moving on to 2XL, that's where I'm employed now. 2XL Ireland is a part of the 2XL group. So I'll go through some of our tasking, some of our operations, but we do have a vast array of operations that we cover. Things like special missions, so you'll probably be aware of the oil spill response team. It's currently flown by, we have 2 727s that fly this all around the world. It's kind of 24-hour notice period. The crews are always on call to go out anywhere in the world for oil spill response. We have recently purchased some 737-800s to replace the 200s, unfortunately, so there will be a phase-out period for them. But they're beautiful aircraft, and we do see them in Lasham whenever we're over there. Charter, we have a fleet of 4 737s there later on. Sorry, I'll go back to the special missions. We do the Coast Guard, obviously, it's probably one of our most famous missions that we do. Both Border Patrol as well. So we've got the Piper Navajo, which is the lower aircraft there. They're being replaced slowly by the DA-62s and then the King Airs. So we've got a fleet of King Air 200s and 350s in both the UK and Ireland. And then the DA-62s, like I said, they're coming in and they're doing everything from military training, from forestry mapping, railway mapping, and they're working on the HS2 projects here in the UK. They're doing border patrol on the south coast as well, looking for dinghies coming across the channel. So there's a vast array of taskings available for those. We've got our charter and engineering. Charter is based out of Stansted, and that picture was going to stay. And then our engineering is based in Lasham and Humberside. So both of those operations are 24/7 operations, and we're not only servicing our own aircraft, we're also working for other big clients. I'm sure Andy will know a few of them as well. And we've got our business support as well. So we provide operations for our own crews and then for other airlines as well. 24/7 operations, all types of flight operations. If we're down route and we need anything, hotels or we need fuel, we just text them. We can even text them from the aircraft and ask, and they'll arrange it for us. That was me and Kerry a couple of weeks ago. Where we are based. So the initial base for 2XL was in Sywell in Northamptonshire. That was where the blades were formed, and 2XL was the AOC that was formed to manage the blades aerobatic team. Then we've also got operations in Doncaster, which is reopening again, as we know. We've seen it on the show a number of times that Doncaster is reopening, and 2XL actually flew the first aircraft back into Doncaster, I think 6 weeks ago, if I remember correctly on the show. Humberside, like I said, is a maintenance base, as is Lasham. Then we've got Southend, where all of our charters come out of. Boscombe Down, we do have quite a few military projects ongoing, some public and some non-public. I suppose the most recent you'll know about is the Excalibur project, which was the 757 conversion. And if you get a chance to Google it, it's a very cool looking aircraft. The Excalibur project, that was actually done at 2XL in Lasham, and then it's flown to Boscombe Down since then. We've got bases in Southend. Lid's gone and Southend is now open. Prestwick, Newquay, and obviously in Shannon where I'm based, and this is the one that I'm going to talk about. So, Shannon's our base, brand new, opened 12th of May last year. We got our AOC granted. We went live with 2 King Air 200 aircraft, and the possibility for a Diamond coming in as well. 18 crew, so it comprises of 6 captains, 6 first officers and 6 sensor operators in the back as well. We have a 30-minute response time. That means that from the time we accept the phone call, the tasking, I'll go through the taskings in a minute, but from the time we accept it, we have 30 minutes to be airborne. So we're on a state of readiness. We live in the hangar when we're on shift, and we eat in the hangar. Everything is, we're together as a crew at all times, day and night, 24-hour operation. So one of the stipulations as well, we have got to be 90 minutes anywhere in the Irish EEZ. And you see a map there. The Irish economic zone, it covers 410,000 kilometres of water. It's a lot of water. 7 times the land mass of Ireland. It goes out about 280 nautical miles off the coast to the west, and then to the south is about 180 to 200 nautical miles. So we've got a lot of land to cover in 90 minutes, but the King Air is good. We've got a cruise speed of about 250 knots, and you can go up to flight level 350. We normally don't go above 280 though. So that's the Irish Economic Zone, and taskings. Main taskings are search and rescue, including drop functions. I'll show you a picture of the drop supplies that we've got in a minute. We've got top cover, huge amount of top cover for the helicopters. I've got a video I can show you of us providing top cover for the 189 helicopters that are based all around. There's 4 helicopter bases in Ireland where there's only 1 fixed wing base. We carry out counter pollution tasks, so everything from vessel tracking. It could be in the Irish Sea, and they'll give us some taskings to go out and chase big cargo ships up and down the Irish Sea, which is great fun. And the equipment in the back can pick up any if they're over polluting, and then we can send a bill to the shipping contractor and tell us that they've gone over the European limit. Vessel tracking identification, really it's our main tasking at the moment. Not a day goes by that we don't get tasked into the Atlantic or the Irish Sea to go and check out a vessel that's transferring through Irish waters, and then that's obviously fed back into various European bodies just so we can keep an eye on the vessels. Mountain rescue support is something we train for. We haven't had any taskings yet, but we always have to be ready for that in case one does go missing. The equipment on board, the ultraviolet and the infrared can help us find people. Citizen repatriation. If someone is abroad and needs to be returned, we're on a 30-minute call out, so we can make the citizen repatriation quite easy. It's sometimes a lot easier than putting them on commercial flights to get them home if there's a need to get people back to Ireland quickly. Organ transport, again, it's something that we've all been trained in, and with the 30-minute response time, it works if there's a vital organ that needs to be brought back to Ireland at short notice. So it's something that we can do as well. So the taskings, it's very much, you could be a commercial operation up at flight level 260 one day, and then you could be down, like yesterday, down 200 feet practicing a drop profile. So the aircraft has to be capable and the crews have to be trained. It's a huge amount of training that we need to go through as part of this role. So that was actually the drop stores that we've got there. Where is it? No, it's not there, it's on the next slide. Mission equipment, sorry, this is what's on board the aircraft. So from the sensor operators sitting in the back, there's 2 pilots in the front and sensor operators. So they do all the work in terms of using all of our cameras, the electro-optical, infrared, ultraviolet sensors for day and night searches. We have a feed, so we've got our EFBs, the iPads are set up in the front. We can actually see what's on their cameras. So if we're flying a hold or a search pattern, we can see what they're seeing. So if it's not looking good, we'll say to them, do you want us to climb, do you want us to descend? So we can all the time, we're working back and forward. It's a small crew, but obviously we need to, the communication is key for each operation to work. And then, so we've got the ultraviolet sensors for day and night searches, as well as pollution identification. Search radar capable of detecting small objects on the water surface. So underneath the aircraft, you'll see the search radars in that pod underneath. We could be flying along and there could be a seal or a whale or something 2 miles, 3 miles in the distance that will pop up on it. It's really sensitive. And even 2 weeks ago, there was a pipe floating. We got called. They said there was something on radar that was seen floating underneath the surface. So we headed out to look for it. Mark 1 eyeball, we could see nothing. And then search radar picked it up, and we don't know what it was, but there was a piece of pipe about 10 meters long floating underneath the surface. So we directed a boat out to find it and take it out of the sea. Direction finding equipment, so we can homing on to distress signals. Obviously, if there's a vessel or if someone's got a PLB, we can find them and lock onto them, and we'll get bearings towards and ranges towards the person or the vessel. AIS, which is effectively flight radar for boats. You know, there's marine trackers, boats carry transponders as well, and some of the goodies will have them on, and a lot of the baddies will have them off. So it's our job to, if they're not on AIS, we've got to find them using our tracking equipment. So yeah, we've got the AIS on board the system. The aircraft's got we're fully connected all the time. It's got built-in Wi-Fi, satellite communication. So the whole time we're fully connected to both the Marine Rescue Coast Guard head office, to our own operations department as well. So if we're on a tasking, it might be counter pollution, and they might say, here, there's someone in the water, you need to go to this point. So we can be tasked when we're already on a tasking. So it's pretty much all the time. It's constantly updating the scenarios. The Artemis, which is a very interesting bit of kit, it's a mobile phone detection and location system for locating missing persons. This is kind of modern technology at its best. So we've got a mobile phone mast underneath our aircraft. If we're heading out and if someone's on a boat and they've lost their PLB or their PLB's run out of batteries, even if their phone has got 0%, we can still ping them. That we can find out where they are and work our way in towards them using the Artemis. Last summer there was a teenager went missing on Brighton Beach. 100,000 people, one of the sunniest days of the year, and using their IMEI number, we could lock onto them and find them and direct the police into them. So it's that level of technology. It's really, really cool. And like I said, even if your phone's out of batteries, it still keeps a little bit of reserve that it can always ping back and forward between ourselves or another rescue service. Obviously, we have VHF, HF, and encrypted communications. We've got a Tetra, which is the encrypted communications, because obviously, if we're passing news about injuries, casualties, or fatalities over, we don't want to be putting it over a VHF radio because anyone can listen in and hear it. So it has to be encrypted between ourselves and other services. Satellite and data links. Like I said, the aircraft's fully connected at all times. So droppable stores. We have 2 life rafts in the back. Both of them weigh about 42 kilos. They are really, really heavy. 13-man life rafts. Carry 2 in the back, and there's a little drop hatch in the back that we can drop out of. So obviously, if there was a boat, say for example, started sinking, we can head out. We've kind of get up high. We can get out of Lockwick in the helicopter, so we could drop a life raft, and then we can then provide we can go into more of a top cover role then. Once the crew from the boat are on board our life raft, and then we can guide the helicopter in. So it's kind of next level for search and rescue. They have it in the UK and in Ireland, this level. Life rafts, we can have Iridium self-locating data marker buoys for real-time drift modelling. Marine location markers as well, so we can drop them in, and effectively that will guide the helicopters in. There we go. We've got flares as well, and smoke markers as well, just to help the helicopters come in and see us from a distance. That's the life rafts I was talking about there. They're behind the sensor operators. So we carry 2 of those on board, and they're hefty. So the sensor operators get their work out for the day trying to move that from its storage position to the drop hatch before they drop it. Usually we drop these at 200 feet, so it's pretty low, about 150 knots, 200 feet is the drop speed for those. Reception, like I said, we're a brand new operation in Ireland. Previously we had helicopters on their own. Now we've got a mixture of both, and we're co-located right beside them in Shannon, the helicopters. So it's been really, really warmly accepted across the board to have this. They've had it in the UK for 10 years, so now it's we're playing catch up, but it's going really well. Some of the missions that we've been tasked out on over the last 12 months. Some various media that we've got. And then, like I said, this video comes from the Irish Coast Guard's page. I'll just play it through for you. So what happened here was this, the boat lost power, and as soon as they lost power, their bilge pump stopped working. So it started taking on water. The crew didn't waste any time and jumped straight into the water with their onboard life raft. So our job was to get out and monitor when the helicopter was quite a long way out. So we had to go out and act as an on-scene coordinator. So we brought these other boats in, so there was boats nearby in case the life rafts, there was people in the water, and then the helicopter came out. But by that stage, they'd all been rescued onto a boat, so the helicopter and ourselves reverted back to base. We do a lot of training. This is with the Doolin ferry, which goes out to the Aran Islands in Galway. We work really, really regularly with all the helicopters to make sure that this level of top cover that we're trained in, they're trained as well. In these kind of scenarios, we'll guide them onto a vessel, and then once they get on, we go to radio silence, because this is a kind of a very, very dangerous part of the operation, is the winch. They train regularly, but still being kind of launching from a helicopter at 50 or 60 feet. And then just kind of, this was another mission that we had over the Aran Islands. Nice bit of camera footage there that they caught, wasn't it? Yeah, beautiful. So that was, yeah, no, don't worry. It was nicely done by the camera operator there to get that shot out over the Aran Islands again. And then this is over Mount Errigal training, obviously a kind of a mountain search. They were doing some winching. We were just coming back from a training mission and happened to hear them on the radio and asked could we get some footage of them, and the footage came out to be really, really nice. So we do these training sessions really, really regularly, because obviously it hones all of our skills. And this situation here, they said we had to find them, so we were kind of looking, couldn't find them, had to turn our transponder or turn our traffic awareness off because we'd see them. But we found them pretty quick with this, and there they were hiding on the other side doing a winch. So it shows you the power of the camera as well, that we can zoom in from such a distance. So that's it for me, guys. Any questions about myself or the Irish Coast Guard? Al.
Knowing Shane quite well as I do, you're obviously, if you're tasked to something that's to the west of you, there's a lot of water out there for you to cover.
Yep.
So have you had the regrettable situation where you're tasked to somewhere that's actually outside of your range?
Yep.
And the sort of implications of that, and the feeling of, I guess, disappointment, despair that you just can't get out there?
Yeah, definitely. There is. There was one vessel coming across from the United States, and one of the crew members had a stroke on board, and they called about 36 hours out. They were going to Southampton. They called about 36 hours out, and we just said, you're going to have to wait another 12 hours. And they said, we don't know if that will work. But we've got our own limits, and it's for a situation like that, we say they actually moved the helicopter from its base in Shannon all the way down to West Cork, so it was even closer. And we were tasked down, and we had to offload some of our mission equipment so that we could take extra fuel on board to make sure we got there in time. But definitely there is situations where you have to kind of say, is it worth our while going out? Or even we were out there, I'll give you another example. Last August, it was a really, really big storm, and there was a boat lost power, and we'd been out all afternoon, and we'd arranged for it to be towed by a French boat into a port. We went out to check on them, and the storm was coming in, and we kind of had to say, listen, we could see it on the weather radar. It's the big kind of horseshoe of red all around us, and we just knew there was a gap to the east, so we were kind of doing orbits around them. And on the last orbit, we said we'll have to come back in the morning, and that's not nice as well. Leaving them one boat with no power, under tow, and they were going to be under tow for about 50 hours before they got back to port. So that's a long way. So we just said, listen, we'll be back in the morning at about 5 a.m. So we went back to the hangar to get sleep, because we knew we were going to get about 3 or 4 hours sleep. We needed to increase our duty period by getting the rest, but it's not nice, so yeah.
I have a quick question for
Sure,
you.
yeah.
Thank you very much indeed for telling us all about some of the conditions that you're flying in. Yeah. And you did touch on it there, actually. I mean, some of the weather can be pretty grotty. What sort of weather limitations do you have?
In terms of, we'd always have to make sure that our destination and our alternates are good. And then once we get out there, then we will use the grid Mora. So we'll have a look at our EFBs, and we'll have a see, well, what's the grid Mora. If we can't see, if there's cloud, we can't descend. Even if we know that we're over, we're 50 miles out to sea, we just can't descend. So we needed have to find a patch of clear sky, then we can descend down, go visual, and we can stay below it. But in terms of winds, it's kind of standard. We have our max crosswind limits, and we'll have to make sure that our destination and our destination second alternate are good to go. Yeah.
Any more questions? Anybody at all? No. Thank you very much, Neil. That was fantastic. Brilliant.
Okay then. So our final speaker then for this afternoon is some guy called Armando. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Well, I've got some notes of what I'm not 100% sure what he's going to talk about, but it does say here that Armando is going to share with us his experiences of navigating the challenges of some YouTube challenge he may or may not have got involved in, as well as his time in the USAF when he was based right here in the UK.
I tried to move this table, and Nev has an electrified cattle prod. It's wired in, so he did not let me do that, and I brought my own table from the US, which is this one. Thank you. I am very well aware that I'm the last speaker. I'm also, I think me and Andy are the last thing between you all and the pub. So I have elected to not use my entire allotted time. You're welcome. But I'm going to give you the shortest possible summary of my career. I spent 22 years in the United States Air Force, much of that here in the UK, which is why I'm a not-so-secret Anglophile. I was flying, training, surviving things that were deliberately designed to break you. Then I spent nearly 300 episodes on a podcast talking about airplanes with people who love airplanes, arguably an unhealthy amount. Then I spent 100 days trapped on a private jet for a YouTube video. So it's a very weird journey that somehow turned into a LinkedIn profile. And yet, here we are, episode 600, and I wouldn't change a single weird, turbulent, inexplicable step of it. Here's the thing that those three experiences all kind of have in common. They all demand that you show up prepared for chaos. And somehow you keep your sense of humor when everything else around you is slightly on fire. Being a 14-year-old Civil Air Patrol cadet taught me that. Thank you to John Jester, who was my senior member. Military aviation taught me that. Plane Talking UK reminded me, hit after nearly 300 episodes, and let's not even start talking about the chaos that is APG. The Mr. Beast Challenge confirmed that in front of about 150 million people, which is a lot of witnesses for a personal revelation. So first, congratulations to the Plane Talking UK team on 600 episodes. Absolutely just genuinely extraordinary. And I say that not only as a guest here, right, but as someone who was part of this circus for somewhere around, I think we said episode 208 to nearly episode 500, which means for nearly 300 episodes, Carlos, Matt, Nev, John, everybody else on the team made the questionable decision to hand me a microphone and allow me to think I knew about military stuff and broadcast it on the internet. Repeatedly, we did that for years. And honestly, Plane Talking UK has always felt like a gathering of aviation people who somehow found each other online before eventually realizing, oh no, there are more of us out there. Aviation enthusiasts are not normal people. Normal people relax on weekends. Aviation people wake up at 5 in the morning and stand next to the perimeter fence of some airport in freezing rain and say, man, look at the beautiful sunshine glinting off the wing of that airplane. And military aviation enthusiasts are even worse, Jonathan. You military aviation enthusiasts can identify aircraft from engine sounds, navigation lights, silhouettes, smoke trails, occasionally what is referred to as witchcraft. I have met plenty of PTUK listeners who can identify Soviet-era variants of aircraft faster than most intelligence analysts that I worked with. And I genuinely love the passion of the people that can identify a Block 50 from a Block 52 fighter jet because of the shape of the engine inlet. These are not casual opinions in our community. These are deeply held convictions. People have very strong opinions in this community. And I think on the show, in the community, we've been on the periphery of conversations about whether a particular engine variant changes the fundamental characteristics of a 737 for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And Nev, the in-flight entertainment crowd, equally committed, someone will casually mention a seatback screen system, and suddenly 3 people are furiously explaining the difference between the Panasonic EX3 and the Thales Avant system, like it's a matter of national security. It's not national security, but you wouldn't know that from the passion and the energy in the room. And I say that with complete love for this community, because that level of passion, that obsessive, slightly unhinged dedication to the details is exactly what makes this community extraordinary. I love this community because everyone here genuinely loves aviation, if you just look out there. Not just airplanes, though, as we've heard today. It's the stories, the people, the culture, the shared suffering, good and bad over the years. On the podcast, somehow, these guys brought me on to be the military guy, which sounds cool until there's some kind of geopolitical crisis somewhere, and then my phone explodes, and Jonathan is sending me questions like, hey, Armando, quick question. What's your assessment of tanker operations, or the regional escalation dynamics, or the suppression of enemy air defenses? And I'm just sitting there trying to buy groceries, right? Because it's 2 o'clock in the US. Honestly, one of the things that I love most about the show was how it connected so many people from different worlds of aviation together. That's the airline pilots, the military crews, engineers, ATC, spotters, historians, and just general av geeks. Despite all of our differences, we are all sharing the same emotional attachment to what I have discovered are machines that are objectively trying to bankrupt us, but both emotionally and financially. Eventually, all of that took a strange turn, and I ended up on that Mr. Beast challenge. That still feels weird. It feels fake when I say it out loud. Somehow my Air Force career eventually led to, congratulations, you're not going to spend 100 days trapped in a private jet for YouTube. What's funny is that people assume that the hardest part was the challenge itself, the competition itself, but it wasn't. I would say a lot of people ask me, and the hardest part was the isolation. So for 100 days, no phone, no iPad, no internet, limited reading material, no connection to the outside world, no family. After a while, your brain starts doing weird things. You lose track of time, your routine disappears, your world becomes extremely small, specifically 6 feet wide, 22 feet from the cockpit to the lav. Fairly quickly, something clicked in me. I think it was around day 2. I realized I have actually trained for this. So not intentionally for YouTube, obviously, but in the military, especially in the aviation communities, operational communities, we go through SEER training. So that's survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. So thankfully, I don't know about you guys, was never detained by a foreign government. In the military, that's generally a positive career outcome. But every 2 years, we still train for the isolation, the captivity scenarios, the stress management, emotional control, maintaining that mental discipline in restricted environments, right? At the time, like most military people, I thought, I hope I never need this. It turns out I just needed it for Mr. Beast, which I guarantee was not in the original training syllabus there in Spokane, Washington, so I got to go back and talk to the Air Force about that. But honestly, the principles were all surprisingly similar. SEER training is really only about one thing, and our military folks know this. It's maintaining control over yourself when you lose control over your environment. That's resilience. I think that's something that people misunderstand a little bit. Resilience, not really about repeating motivational phrases at yourself. It's not pretending that things don't bother you. It's staying functional when things and conditions become uncomfortable. So during the challenge, I realized that the military had quietly taught me a lot of things that I was using automatically. The routine mattered, humor mattered, discipline mattered, and emotional control mattered. Maybe most importantly, purpose mattered. So I knew from day one my purpose for being there in that challenge, which was my family. Because once you remove all of the distractions, you find out very quickly whether or not you can handle being alone with your own thoughts. Modern life doesn't prepare you for that anymore. So we have constant stimulation. We have phones, notifications, streaming, social media, all noise. The challenge stripped all that away from me. After enough time, it felt less like entertainment and YouTube and more like a psychology experiment sponsored by YouTube and DoorDash, if you haven't watched the video. One thing that military aviation teaches you very quickly is that the humans are creatures of habit. That's why we have obsessions with checklists and procedures. Checklists exist because when humans become tired, we become incredibly stupid. During the challenge, fatigue changed the people around me, and after enough exhaustion, everybody started behaving more like airport passengers during weather delays. One of the coolest moments in the challenge for me was watching that production team, having a little bit of a background in it, work at this incredible pace to make the show happen. And outside of the military, I had not seen a civilian team work so hard to get to yes as that production team. Again, shockingly similar to aviation. But military training help build that because it helps you build structure internally when structure disappears externally. So that became huge during the challenge. I created routines, exercise routines, sleep routines, mental routines, because if you don't control your environment mentally, your environment starts controlling you emotionally. And honestly, I think that's the biggest lesson that applies way beyond military aviation or military service or aviation in general. It applies to leadership, it applies to business, it applies to parenting, relationships, it applies to modern life in general. The world, as we all know, is increasingly chaotic and distracting, right? The people who thrive, I think, are the people who can usually maintain that internal discipline during external instability. Something I want to leave with you, because I think it is genuinely useful. You can spend money on mindfulness apps. You can go to meditation retreats. You can go to wellness programs trying to learn how to be present in the moment. We talk about it a lot. The military taught me that same thing for free, arguably with a lot more yelling. In aviation, especially military aviation, we're trained to compartmentalize. You're trained that everything has to go into a box, and that sometimes gets a bad reputation. The word gets a bad reputation. It means you're suppressing your feelings or pretending that problems don't exist. To me, that's not what it means. Compartmentalization means this problem right now is what I'm faced with, and that's what matters. When we are on approach in low visibility, we're not thinking about mortgages. You're not replaying an argument that you had last Tuesday. You're not mentally composing a strongly worded email to someone who deserves it. I wasn't looking at you, but it's being here fully, completely in the moment because the task in front of you demands it, right? So now it's mindfulness. Not a candle, not an app, not a breathing exercise, although those things work, not dismissing them. It's the deliberate, trained decision to be entirely present in the thing that you are doing right now. Here's the part that I found fascinating. You don't need a cockpit to practice it, right? So you can find it washing dishes, feeling the bubbles on your hands. You can find it on a long run and smelling the fresh cut grass. I found it genuinely in a 100-day YouTube challenge on a private jet somewhere over the Midwest United States when the noise finally stopped and the only thing left was the moment that I was actually in. That challenge stripped away every distraction. And what I discovered underneath all of that noise was not anxiety, it was clarity. Because of the present moment, the one that we are actually living in, is the only one that we can do anything about. The past is a debrief. The future is a flight plan. Right now is the only thing that you can do anything about, what actually matters. So here's the takeaway that I want you to leave from this room today. Whatever you are doing, be in it fully, whether it's work, relationships, conversation. someone you love, or a podcast about aircraft that we will never fly, but we absolutely need to have opinions about, be present for it. Because 600 episodes happened because a group of people showed up consistently, passionately, completely for something that they love. It's not just podcasting, we'll call it a philosophy, and it's one worth keeping. So here's the second thing that I want you to take home today, because I think it is an important one. Aviation people are passionate people. You already know that. We've established that at length. But passion without peace is just noise. Flying, for me, has always been peace. I think you saw that, right? Not in spite of the complexity, not in spite of the skill that it demands, but because of it. There's something that happens when you are 1,000 feet above the ground doing 80 miles per hour in an open cockpit biplane, and the wind is hitting your, I don't have hair, but your hair, your face, and the world below you just looks like an intricate model that somebody built with extraordinary care. Everything that was loud becomes quiet. Everything that felt urgent becomes small, and you just leave life below you. You are simply, completely alive in that moment. And then there's the other end of the spectrum. There's flying at 43,000 feet, Mach 0.8, the curvature of the Earth visible in the windscreen, the sky above you turning into something deepening, something that isn't quite blue anymore. It's like a darkness. It's a strange, humbling realization that you are a very small thing moving very fast through an enormous universe. And somehow, that's the most peaceful feeling in the world. Two completely different experiences, same truth underneath both of them. That your passion, whatever it is, can be your sanctuary, as long as you let it. So the mistake people make is treating their passion like a performance, like something that needs to be optimized, documented, debated, ranked. And I'm not judging. I have met people who have spreadsheets tracking their aviation spotting data. I respect the commitment. I question the sleep schedule. The real gift of a passion isn't the knowledge that it gives you. It isn't the community, although this community is extraordinary. It isn't even the experiences. It's the permission that it gives you to be fully, unapologetically absorbed into something that makes you feel alive. It's not escapism, it's restoration. So whatever your version of flying at 1,000 feet in an open cockpit looks like to you, find it, protect it, and return to it always. The world will always have more demands of us than we have ours. And the people who last, the ones who stay curious, stay generous, stay present, are almost always the ones who find something that restores them. Flying does that for me. For 600 episodes, this podcast has done that for all of us. And that's worth celebrating. So, congratulations to the entire team, and we'll see you at the pub.
Very well done. Keeping to time. Excellent job. Anybody got any questions for Armando?
The pub awaits.
Wow.
Sorry, I guess the quiz awaits, but
yeah.
All right. You can ask him at the pub.
Yeah, excellent. Well done, sir. Superb. Thank you very much indeed for your kind words as well. Final bit of video to play you. Some of you, if you are fans of rotary action, will know Rory Auskerry. Rory works for Bristow out in the North Sea on the oil rigs. Rory was hoping to be here today, but he's working, sadly, up in the Highlands and Islands and offshore. But he very kindly sent us a video wishing us good luck for the show.
Major congratulations to all of you at Plane Talking UK. Fantastic achievement to hit 600 episodes. No mean feat as well. I know a little bit about podcasting, and to even get to 100 episodes is incredibly rare. 600 almost unheard of. So well done all of you guys. I'm just out of the woods today, sure of a big surprise, with the kids to just have a bit of a run about on their bikes and stuff. And we've just been overflown by not one, not two, but 4 lovely Augusta 109 helicopters on the way south, presumably from Donald Trump's local golf course. So great, folks. I'm just been retype rated on the Augusta Westland 189 with Bristow, which is really exciting. I've done my first couple of line flights in that last week, so looking forward to getting out and about in that again. In the meantime, well done again to all of you guys. 600 podcast episodes, top stuff. Here's to the next 600. All the best from Rory on air.
Oh, wasn't that nice, Vince? Excellent.
Thank you, Rory.
Okay, so thank you to all of our guest presenters today. It was a superb mixture, I think you'll agree, of all sorts of people's experiences. Next up, we have the quiz.
It's informative or inspiring, as all of those presenters. So, what would a special episode be without a good old special quiz? You've all got your answer sheets and a lovely Acme Orange branded pen that was kindly donated. This quiz is in 3 parts. The first 2 parts are very easy because they were created by me, an illiterate northerner, and they're all pictures. The third part is some wonderful questions produced by, where's he gone? He's disappeared. He's over there, Armando. Military questions. So don't ask me about them. I don't know anything about military stuff. So it's dead straightforward. The first part is guess the airline. The second part is guess the airline from the cabin crew uniform. And then the third part, I'll hand over to Armando. So, we ready?
Not forgetting as well, there are some incredible prizes.
Oh, yes. What I'll do as well, I'm the final judge on answers. Once we've gone through all the questions, I'll get David to collect the papers. We'll quickly run through what the answers are. I'll take them away and mark them, and then there's going to be wonderful prizes given out in the pub later on. Everybody happy? Awesome. Let's get started. So the first part, as I said before, is guess the airline. Now, I haven't made it particularly easy. You're only going to get to see one part of the aeroplane. So the first question here is, well, guess this particular airline. And I know this is not very good for an audio podcast at all, this part. So let me describe it. It's blue with some yellow on. That is the airline. We all happy with this one? Let's move on. Oh, okay, all right. Sorry, John, let's go back a second. I guess if you know it, you know it.
Yeah.
No Googling, please, yes. Make sure that phone's off, Pip. Yes, next question. Here we go. Let's move on to the next one. This one should be a little bit easier. A red tail with some orange circles on. The registration might actually be a bit of a red herring on this one, to be honest. Okay, let's move on to the third one now. Here it comes. Now we should all get this one. Black engines. There's 1 star on the fuselage there. Oh, it's even got Carlos thinking this one. Remember, Carlos, you can't take part.
Oh, really?
Yes, sorry, mate. Sorry. Cool. Next question, please, John. Oh, this one's an easy one. So this one, for the audio, lots of colours on the tail of the aircraft.
Everyone's taking this so seriously.
It's like being in a bingo hall in the northeast.
There's some serious prizes up for grabs.
Eyes down, look in.
I was telling you, it's the passion.
So question 5. Blue, white and red. I tried not to go too hard with these. I thought they need to be a bit of a challenge.
Have you just chosen these because they're all Airbus?
That's not an Airbus.
Oh, I'm just saying.
That's not an Airbus, Carlos.
Right, you got a point there. Well done, Andy.
And the last airline, please, John. Now, everybody should get this one. Here we go. Oh,
I got one.
Oh, well done, Nick. Very good. Very good. Matt, did you get this one?
Yes. Sure he did.
I think I've got a possible link to a country it's associated with.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. So that's the end of the guess the airline via the aircraft. The next part is guess the airline via the uniform. And these are not current uniforms either.
Oh, blimey.
You can thank John for this. He's done a very good job on this. So, let's keep going, John.
Oh, hello. Oh.
This is a family show, so it's currently on. So, the first one.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
I don't know what I'm trying...
So here's the first one.
Oh, wow.
Bit of a hint, it's quite an old uniform.
However, there's one person who should know this.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I love the hats. They're very nice, the hats.
The top left-hand one, it looks like a hard hat. What's
it does, yes. She's off to do some construction work
I was
after
going to say,
this.
how dangerous is this aviation lark?
Well, it's also the same hat. It's also the same hat from the movie Spaceballs, if you remember.
Real. Okay, let's move on. This one's quite straightforward.
I think even I might get that one.
I thought that was Prince Charles at first, to be honest, on the right, many years ago.
Fix it in post.
Oh, I knew we should have killed the YouTube feed.
Oh dear. Well, let's move swiftly on.
Please.
I will void your quiz, Al, if this carries on. This one looks like a Eurovision act, in my opinion. It's very modern, this one, yes.
Is it? It looks like Florence Nightingale in the middle there. Like.
And the next one, number 4. Now, again, somebody in the room should know this one.
Ooh. Not a clue.
Lots of red. Happy? Let's move on to number 5. Even more red again. And this one's quite modern as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Looks like Neb on the left.
And finally, number 6. And that is the end of the picture ends. Now, Amanda, it's over to you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Look at that. Oh, that's good, huh? Ooh. Thanks, John. Yeah, you did great.
Oh, yes. These were additional questions, so just write down the side or somewhere else, yes.
Mine you're right. No, you got it. The answers are on water-soluble paper, so you can't put them down because they're going to be classified. All right. Hit it. All right, these are actual questions, trivia questions that I was, I don't know, I was trying to fool some of you. And they're from all over, right? So U.S. Air Force question. What jet once landed safely after losing an entire wing? An entire wing, not just half. Okay. I see nods. Let's go to the next one. I think this is naval aviation. All right, this one's going to be an easy one. What swing wing fighter jet had long-term fatigue issues at its wing pivot point from carrier operations?
I did tell you mine were easier.
Now, I bet you more people will get this answer than your weird YouTube, Google airliner pictures.
Can I just say as well, Jonathan Warner, if you don't get 100% on this quiz,
yeah, we're denying.
Really, it's not going to be good.
We're denying you dinner. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, I like that. All right, next question. I believe we're doing Russian aviation.
Ooh.
Oh, British.
Oh, hello.
Oh, yeah. So we're in the right spot for this question. What RAF system used radio beams to guide bombers to their targets at night, well before GPS, obviously? World War II system. I can't give you any hints. We are in the perfect location for that question. All right. Pencils have stopped.
For now.
I'm not sure if pencils started on that one. Russian aviation, here we go. So this is Russian rotary wing question. What Russian attack helicopter does not need a tail rotor? This is what I miss about being the military aviation guy on the show.
Do some pictures.
This is just like the rest of the show. This is when 70% of the audience tunes out. Right, they're like, all right, I'm going to go now to Pod Save the UK. Yeah. I got my platform back for 10 minutes. I think we're sticking with Army aviation, U.S. Army aviation, more rotary. What attack helicopter is designed to stay controllable deep into a retreating blade stall?
I don't even understand the question.
So the wings are on top, right? The wings are on top. Yeah.
You really were holding no punches when you thought these questions up, were you?
No,
it was like make this as hard as possible.
Yeah. But when you when you see the answer, it's going to make perfect sense.
Oh yeah. I've got a $5 on it. Won't.
I think we've only got one more, right? Yeah, one more question. But, well, actually, you know what? The military may be the tiebreaker for all the commercial questions.
Yeah, true.
We could use that. Yeah. This one you should be able to get. Why do Russian carrier fighter jets launch or have to launch lighter than U.S. Navy carrier-based aircraft or fighter jets? It's the Russian word for hamburger. All right. Let's see. This is going to be great.
Okie doke. Once you've filled in your answers, if you can pass them down to the end, and then Armando, do you want to grab them?
Yep, I'll collect them. Pass them in to the center. That's not. You put somebody else's name on there. If your answers are really not great, put your neighbor's name on your paper. Because Nev, we have prizes for the worst, right? Jonathan Warner, for the record, put answers and explanations. Oh, and references. Reference page numbers. Grina, did you do one? Okay, I'll come to yours because yours probably has a story associated with each one of those. And that's the one time I shot one of those down. Everybody, yeah, there we go. There we go. Take that. Is that all of them back here? All right. This is great. I love the.
I think there was one European.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I like this. We have a lawyer in the room.
Right, you got all the answers? I've got their sheets. Yes, so there can be no changing of answers or anything.
There's a lot of blanks, a lot of squiggles, a lot of question marks. I love it.
Oh dear, some of these are going to be very easy to mark.
I think you would know more than you think.
I was really trying to.
I might do these
knew
with a
the
paint, it'll be
answers
easier.
To the commercial one, I wouldn't have gotten any, maybe one of the tail numbers.
So, the answers. Here we are. We're going to show you the answers now, and then I'm going to give you the results in the restaurant. Okay. So, first up. Here we go then. So, any guesses in the room? A cheap knockoff, yes. No, this one is Mandarin Airlines.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Awesome. No. Number 2. They rolled over MD-11, I think, at one point, on landing. This one. Any guesses? Polka Dot Air. That's a good answer. Let's see what the answer is then. Spice Jets. Oh, don't know where the logo came from, but there we are. I also thought that had engine covers on it was flying, but it's just red paint along the front. Question 3. We should get this one. Yes, of course. Good old Titan. Based just down the road.
But it doesn't say it.
Number 4. Here it comes. No. Asiana, that's right. There we go. Nice. Oh, yeah, on the big one. On the proper plane, John. All those Airbuses. Here comes number 5. Any guesses on this one? Yeah, LATAM. That's right. Well done. It's on a... What aircraft is that? Carlos, yeah?
It's TriStar.
Oh, dear. I'm going to have to get you one of the books. I got Matt for aircraft recognition now. And the last one, easy one for the finish. Yeah, that's right, Air New Zealand. Well done. Fantastic. So let's move on to the uniforms. This is a little bit trickier. Oh, that's very fancy animation. We'll keep clicking. Oh, it's military first. Go on then. We'll do your military ones first.
Oh, good. All right. Ooh. Go for it. Like I said, the answers are going to make sense. So what jet once landed safely after losing an entire wing? So F-15. Yeah. They lost the canopy too, didn't they? A couple times.
That's half the aircraft.
All right. What swing wing carrier base fighter? F-14. By the way, by the way, there are purportedly 2 being made airworthy again to go do some aggressor stuff. So we might see the Tomcat in the air again, like in the next couple months. I mean. Well, okay. Any guesses first? Oboe. Yeah, it was I almost told you a musical instrument, but it was oboe combined with transponders. They would emit a signal, and the aircraft would follow the signal at the interception of 2 radar sites. That's the drop point. Kind of, yeah. It was early, like early DME. All right. There are a few Russian helicopters, but which attack helicopter? Hit it. So there are more than one possible answer.
How does that work?
They spin in opposite directions. Yeah, PFM, right?
What's the NATO reporting name?
There's no bonus points for this, by the way. There's no bonus points.
Man, I have brain dumped that. I'm out.
That's what we used.
What is it?
I don't know.
Well. Shall I have a look? Yeah, now you can. All right, this is your retreating blade question. So what attack helicopter was one of the first with 4 blades? So not a 2-blade, not the Cobra, not any of those 2-blade attack helicopters. The Apache, 3 of the blades are still flying at some point. 1 is stalling in a full high G turn, relatively high G. To you fighter guys. All right, why do Russian aircraft carrier-based fighter jets launch lighter? There's no catapult. Yeah. There's no catapult.
Well done, Al. Well done.
There you go. Good job. I think that's it for the military, right?
Awesome. Now, let's hope that the uniform one's up next. Yes, here we go. Uniform answers then. Here it comes. Okay, first one. What's the guess?
Jeff.
Jeff, you don't know this.
You'd already been there 10 years.
Yes, it's Delta Airlines. In a very jazzy uniform. And that was also the logo at the time as well. Number 2. That's an easy one, isn't it? Yes, Emirates.
I can say even I got that one.
Number 3. Any guesses? Oh, this is Hainan. Hainan Airlines. I wouldn't have got that one. Number 4. Answer for this one, number 4. Yes, Virgin, yes, a long, long time ago. Fabulous. Question 5. Any guesses on this one? Austrian, correct, yes. Austrian Airlines. And finally, in at number 6. Yes, Singapore. That is correct. So thank you all for taking part. I'll have to spend quite a bit of time marking all the... Actually, no, seriously. There's not many right answers in here. And I'll see you all in the pub.
Right, that is where we're going to wrap up the show. Going to say a big thanks to all our guest speakers, as always, for joining us today and for entertaining all our awesome guests. Thank you to everyone who's attended today here at Duxford. Thank you so much to you all for coming, all the distance you've travelled as well. Thank you ever so much. And on behalf of me and all the team, it's been a fantastic day, and there's still more stuff to do. Nev is going to be chatting to you in a moment as well, outside, which will be good. And we're going to say thanks to all the chat room as well, who've joined us today on the live show over on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in this afternoon. So that's it. The 600th show. That's a wrap. Stay tuned. We'll be back next Wednesday for another show. So on behalf of the team, thank you very much, and give yourselves a massive round of applause.